And so when I say Chinese, I want you to scream out the nation that's associated with this. For example, if I say Chinese, you're going to say what?
China.
All right, let's say it with authority. When I say Chinese, you say what? China. All right, that's just a test right there. So here we go. Chinese.
China.
Russian.
Russia.
Italian.
Italy.
German.
Germany.
Swedish.
Sweden.
Korean.
Korea.
Egyptian.
Egypt.
Nigerian.
Nigeria.
Black.
Exactly. Nothing. Tell him, Pastor. Tell him, Pastor. Black, nothing. Yes.
I hope you were able to successfully identify the issue.
The lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. They want us to sell our souls to barter profit, like God's property. It's hard to market, so we steady to aim, keep your eyes on target. 'Cause when you got to drive, yeah, they'd rather you park it. But I don't valet, you ain't getting these keys. I'm keeping closed hands, I'm on bended knee. I'm just a reflection, dealing with 8 sections. Art mixed with life, you can feel the convection. Your lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said
the same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black and the vernacular that we're supposed to have. When the schools suggested like the herding systems, because what they do is take the black community and they separate us, and they separate the families, and the educated, they push this need for higher education, and us as blacks, we discriminate against each other and say, well, I got my PhD and you don't have your PhD, so I'm better than you. And
you know what you are? You're an ancient Israelite.
Ancient Israel, that's who we are. That's who we are. So if you give me time, if you give me time, all that he said,
no, we don't have.
So many years.
I know. Look at this. This is pages and pages of
Yes.
notes. And I promise we'll give more teaching. But here is my challenge to you.
All right.
I'm hearing some of your traditions. It's like the days of the Bible.
Yes.
Do you want to remain ancient Israelites, or you want to be Jews? Do you want to remain? I'm hearing some of your traditions. It's like the days of the Bible.
Yes.
Do you want to remain ancient Israelites, or you want to be Jews? That is the question I have for you.
Thank you. I'll answer that question.
Go ahead, I will help you.
After the demise of Solomon, we now have the northern and southern kingdom of Israel.
Yes.
So when we talk about Jews, Jews are Israelites, but all Israelites are not Jews. The 10 tribes that got lost are not Jews. They were Israelites. Jews are Israelites, but all Israelites are not Jews. The 10 tribes that got lost are not Jews. They were Israelites. Jews are Israelites, but all Israelites are not Jews. The 10 tribes that got lost are not Jews. They were Israelites. So when we talk about Jews, Jews are Israelites, but all Israelites are not Jews. The 10 tribes that got lost are not Jews. They were Israelites.
Well, it's depending.
So minority cannot swallow the majority. We are here. We are the majority down here. So you are minority, and we are older than you.
the same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
The white man is enacting a story all over the world. We left our homes and flooded the world. We smothered culture. We smothered knowledge. We erased history and rewrote it our way. Myself, my grandfather is 100% Ashkenazi Jewish. Claiming to be Jewish, Ashkenazi Jewish is just a conspiracy. White men claiming to be of tribes of Israel when I'm Germanic. You know, I have no ties to Israel, no ties to Judaism. You know, except loosely written history that's been whitewashed over for centuries. And, you know,
from the Renaissance.
Oh yeah, right. You wipe everything clean. It's funny how exactly the Renaissance. It's this rebirth, but it's white rebirth. I think at the same exact time the Renaissance is happening, Columbus is sailing to America and committing genocide.
The same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
So, a little over 1,000 years ago, as Jewish people scattered around the world had now emigrated in Europe and now were living in the Rhineland in Germany, they looked at the name Gomer in Genesis 10, and they connected Gomer with Germany, so they took on the identity of the name Ashkenaz. It has nothing to do with Ashkenaz in the Bible, which is a descendant of Japhet. It's just a name that was taken. Okay, it's that simple. Just like my last name Brown doesn't refer to the color of my skin or anything else. It was shortened from a Russian name when my grandfather came over at al-Assad, and the name got shortened to Brown. It's just a name. That's all it is. So the idea that Ashkenazi Jews are descended from Japhet is a myth, 100% false.
Does having Jewish DNA determine your Jewish status? Great question. The answer is your Judaism is determined by your mother. If your mom's Jewish, you're Jewish according to traditional Judaism. Now, you could have a very high count of Jewish DNA, and that's awesome. That means you're connected to the Jewish people, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're Jewish. Don't forget, there are people that convert to Judaism and they have zero DNA and they're 100% Jewish.
Well, there are two levels of discussion here. One is about the facts on the ground and what should be done with it. Turn to that in a minute. The second is questions of what terminology to use to describe what's happening. Here, you can decide that you are willing to live in a bubble as distinct from the entire world. You're free to do that. There are three notions that came up. The biblical rights, which have absolutely no status, none. Nobody in the world can say, 2,000 years ago, here's my story of what happened, so therefore I have a right to do it now. You can't live in a world like that. Nobody in the world ever makes such a claim. You want to make it, okay, but then just admit, I'm out of the world, distinct from the world. Now, yes, totally distinct. If you really want to play that game, the Palestinians have more of a right to claim to be descendants of the population from 2,000 years ago than I do. My ancestors probably come from the Caucasus. Their ancestors come from Palestine.
Today, it is prohibited, and you can Google this, to do a DNA test in Israel. Totally forbidden. Wrong. It's illegal. It's a crime. You'll be jailed if you do a DNA test in Israel. Why? Because they know the truth will come out. You come from Poland, you come from Ukraine, you came from Europe, you came from everywhere else. And they were the original Middle Eastern Jews who lived together with the Muslims and the Christians for centuries. For centuries. So what happened to a lot of the Jews?
Why do you think that the U.S. is so quick to go help Israel fight against the Palestinians? Why? They know that the Jewish people in Israel are not the original people. Oh, no, no, no. They are definitely not. The original people are black people and people of color. So why did one lady, Judith Shore, she was Israeli consul, say that the biggest threat in Israel is the younger black community? Why do they feel so threatened? Why? Because you know why? They know that the black people were the original chosen ones, the original ones that were there. The people over there now, they took over all that land, just like they're trying to take over all of Palestine. They have taken so much land from Palestine also. But watch what this lady says about the Black community being Israel's biggest problem. The Black community being Israel's biggest problem. The Black community being...
The major problem of Israel is with the young generation of the Black community. Black Lives Matter starts there. I had last week sit-down dinner in my house with all the people which are considered the leadership of the Black community.
I have said to people when they ask me if this capital crumbled to the ground, the one thing that would remain is our commitment to our aid. And I don't even call it aid, our cooperation with Israel. That's fundamental, our cooperation with Israel. That's fundamental, our cooperation.
أغلبنا لا يعرف بأن صعود النازية بين الحرب العالمية الأولى والثانية هو كان بدعم أمريكي. الكل يتساءل طيب كيف كان هناك انهيار ألماني وقيود أوروبية، كيف سمحوا للنازية بالصعود وتأسيس جيش؟ بالدعم الأمريكي، بالأموال الأمريكية، بالقروض، بالاستثمارات. 6 ملايين، لا يوجد أي دليل بأن هناك 6 ملايين يهودي قتلوا، وربما حصلت محارق لا أحد ينفيها، وهناك معسكرات اعتقال صحيح، ولكن الدليل على أن هذا الموضوع مسيس وليس إنساني ولا حقيقي. كيف نتحدث عن 6 ملايين ولا نتحدث عن 26 مليون سوفيتي قتلوا في تلك الحرب؟ يعني 6 ملايين أغلى. الممارسات نفسها كانت على كل الاتجاهات، لم يكن هناك طرق قتل مختصة باليهود ولا طريقة تعذيب مختصة باليهود. في كل الأماكن نفس الطريقة استخدمتها النازية، ولكن القضية هي قضية مسيسة ولتزوير الحقيقة ولاحقا للتمهيد لنقل اليهود من أوروبا باتجاه مناطق أخرى هي فلسطين. اليهود الذين أتوا إلى فلسطين هم يهود الخزر شرق قزوين، هم وثنيون و تبعوا الديانة اليهودية في القرن الثامن الميلادي، هاجروا إلى أوروبا وأتوا إلى هذه المنطقة. لا يوجد أي علاقة بينهم وبين شعب إسرائيل.
Genesis chapter 11 verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you.
Want to say peace and blessings to everyone. Want to say shalom lak mash pakha. Want to say peace and blessings to each and every one of you guys for tuning in tonight. I know that this is not a scheduled live. I meant to schedule this earlier in the week, but because of my schedule and, I've been so busy, didn't have a chance to schedule this live. So many of you guys may ask the question of why you didn't get the notification, because I didn't schedule it, even though YouTube, like I said, they do a lot of shiesty stuff in terms of, not sending out the notifications, unsubscribing and all that other stuff. So, but not going to get into the fullness of that. But first, before we get into what we're going to talk about tonight, I'm going to kind of wing it a little bit, but want to thank you guys. Really appreciate you guys for the love and support, for just how quick we've grown. I know we would be a lot further along had it not been for the continuous, let me get this out of my back pocket, the continuous shadow bans. Like this year, I was shadow banned for almost 6 months, literally almost 6 months. I was stuck on averaging supposedly like something like 40 or 50 subscribers a month for almost 7 months. That's just this year alone. They had me strikes and all that other stuff. You guys already witnessed me constantly going in and out of YouTube jail for the past few years, and I mean, I think 2022, I was in YouTube jail for like 5 months, almost half the year, And then the year before last, it went 2 winters ago. Man, I was literally a strike away from having the channel shut down over them just arbitrarily going to videos and flagging it. But not going to get into all of that. But really appreciate you guys for the love and support. Again, I really appreciate you guys for the love and support. We would not be where we are had it not been for each and every one of you guys. At the turn of the year, I'm working on some. I want to start putting some T-shirts out there for anyone that want to purchase a T-shirt. The way that I'm going to price it is not for me to make any money off of this, but just whatever it costs to get these T-shirts out there. We woke now, ain't never going back, and I'm not caught up in the grammar. You know what I mean? I'm going to spell it exactly the way, write it out exactly the way I just expressed it. So again, but I really appreciate you guys for the love and support. And, I know I set at the end of last year, I set the goal to hitting 50,000 subscribers. The year before that, my goal was 25,000 subscribers. And the 2 winters ago, it was 10,000 subscribers. So each time we exceeded that. And I thank you guys again for the love and support and getting this word out. So this means that people are watching what we do over here. We know that every subscriber are not from this community in terms of being awakened to who they are. We know we have other communities that are subscribing just to, keep tabs on what we're doing over here, but that's fine. But we're still going to continue to give this truth. We're going to continue to speak life. We're going to continue to wake up our brothers and sisters worldwide. And again, had it not been for you guys, we woke now, as well as our ministry, would just be taking a walk by ourselves. I want to say shout outs to Brother Douglas. Family, let's show some love to Brother Douglas. And also let's show some love to Mona Mitch. Mona Mitch. Let's show some love for the contributions and family. Again, I thank the Most High for you guys just getting the channel to where it is right now. I really appreciate it. Thank you again for the love and support, as well as Brother Douglas. Thank you for the love and support. And family, I promise you, I am going to, my goal is over the next couple of days is to go through my email. I know I'm behind, got way behind in it. And I know some of you guys are interested to start joining our Bible study and also connecting with the ministry. So I will have send out some email responses to you guys within the next couple of days with information on how to access the Zoom call and some of the other things that we have going on internally, including the upcoming feast day. Even though we do Parayam or Purim, we celebrate that here to honor the women in the ministry. But we also have another feast day, the Passover. And if you guys want to start planning and coming out, making your way out here, and we'll get the information out early. We're going to, instead of doing it at our facility like we normally do it, we're going to expand it a little bit so that way those that want to come far and near, you have an opportunity to come and celebrate with us. But nevertheless, family, I tell you, 2023 closed out with a bang. Every year, I sit and wait like, hey, when is it going to be that moment that we can kind of, so to speak, catch lightning in the bottle? What is going to be that thing that's going to kind of go viral? 2022, that thing that went viral, actually, I call it the perfect storm, because we had Whoopi situation. Then we also had Kanye West situation. We had the Kyrie situation. And in the midst of all of that, that's when the Hebrews to Negroes thing was in the midst of that. So we had the perfect storm. And I tell you, man, I got all kinds of questions from other communities, asking questions, and also thanking us here for just, going line by line, doing the movie review and just the stuff that we're teaching. So this year, with everything that's happening over with the Israelis and the Palestinians, that actually helped spark more questions even this year. So I thank the Most High for opening up those doors for opportunities for us to get this truth out. But it was one thing, and I'm not sure if you guys remember me saying this. I stated that I'm waiting for some big things to happen. And what I mean by that is I'm waiting for, certain confessions and certain declarations publicly, in terms of who's who. That's the thing I was waiting for. I didn't go into the specifics, but I said I'm waiting to hear more and more people start making clear in terms of who's who and who's not. And I think more and more we're starting to see this now. I'm sure you guys saw the video I uploaded yesterday with the Sheik giving you detailed information about the Khazars, how they converted over to started practicing Judaism, how they start practicing and transition over to Christianity. And, truth be told, when you understand the Kazarians and you start understanding their Turkish, because the Ashkenazis, according to Aaron Elhake, they're Turkish people. So far as in terms of the Khazarians, as well as when we start dealing with the the Ashkenazis, according to his findings, that completely, shatters that Rhineland hypothesis and really solidifies the Kazarian hypothesis. He really gave good information about that. That's right. Thank you guys. 3 years ago, 3 summers ago, or 3 winters ago, or whatever. George Floyd, Nick Cannon, because that's where we got a lot of bump from that as well. So I really appreciate it for Smoke Monkey. Really appreciate you for reminding. I couldn't remember what it was, but yeah, we uploaded that video here, some highlights from it, and we got a lot of reviews off of that video, just that alone, and the discussions behind it. So I really appreciate it. So it's so much that to really understand the situation in terms of where we are today. And I'm going to say it like this, family. Don't allow anyone to get up in you. And what I mean by that, get up in your mind, get you discouraged, make you want to look at your identity as a religion. Being a Hebrew Israelite, whether you want to say Hebrew Israelite or whether you want to just say Israelite or whether you want to say Hebrew, this is not a religion. Christianity is a religion, right? Judaism is a religion, right? And for Christianity, guess what? They call themselves Christians. For Judaism, they call themselves Jews, right? Those are religions and the constructs for every person that converts over to those belief systems, just like Islam. Islam is a belief system. We've been hacked. Our identity has been stolen. It's been taken away from us, stripped from us. But I believe we're starting to get into that time. What I mean by that is that Zephaniah, how the Most High is going to start, getting into the hearts of these non-blood descendants of Israel, these other nations, and start having them declare who's the real people of the book. He said that in Zephaniah. That's going to be part of the restoration of Israel. The same people that was creating bywords against us. Guess what? They're going to start proclaiming and declaring who we are. Right? They're going to start really, being bold with these things, and we see it more and more. So I'm going to share, and I want you to pay attention to what the president of Syria just pointed out. This is the president of Syria. This is his own words. Listen to what he said about, first I'll highlight what he said about the Kazarians. Let's see what he says about the Khazarians, the Khazars. Let's see what he says. Let me see. I thought I had the clip here. All right, here we go. It's a short clip.
اليهود الذين أتوا إلى فلسطين هم يهود الخزر شرق قزوين، هم وثنيون و تبعوا الديانة اليهودية في القرن الثامن الميلادي، هاجروا إلى أوروبا وأتوا إلى هذه المنطقة. لا يوجد أي علاقة بينهم وبين شعب إسرائيل.
So he makes it clear, right? He makes it clear Let me play it one more time. He makes it clear because I had the banner at the ticker at the bottom. Let me play it one more time. And I want you guys to pay attention and listen to what he says, because more and more people of other nations are coming out. Now, some are not saying we're the people of the book, but they're making it clear that he's not that Israel over there is not the people of the book. That's what you're hearing more and more, that we, they're starting to call out the origins of the people that's occupying that territory right now. We're hearing that more and more. I mean, when did you ever thought that you would start hearing testimonies like this? Let me play a couple of testimonies and then I will play that clip again. When did you start thinking that ever thought that you would hear, for example, this guy looked like a redneck cowboy, you know what I mean? But listen to what this cowboy say about us.
Now I can't figure it out. If y'all are Now I can't figure it out. If y'all are the chosen ones, shouldn't y'all be obeying better than me? I mean, I even try to keep the fourth commandment. Try to keep the Sabbath day holy. I've spent many of hours trying to figure out which is the right Sabbath day, because we know that old Catholic Church, something a little fishy about them, don't we? With that white Jesus. I mean, here's a white guy telling you black people that your Messiah is not a long-haired white European guy. Your Messiah is Hebrew, my darker-skinned brothers and sisters. When are you guys going to wake up and become kings and queens?
When did you ever think that you'll hear someone say, and and this is not trying to put stereotype anyone, but he seemed to be a cowboy. He seemed to be, a redneck cowboy. I'm not saying he's racist or anything like that, but when you think of rednecks in terms of the appearance. But anyway, but when did you ever think that you would hear someone, that if you looked at him from the outside versus what's on the inside, you would never think that you would hear those words come out of his mouth. You would never have thought that you would hear a Christian missionary even saying this right here.
I was a Christian missionary for years, but there came a time in my life when I realized that what I was taught about the Bible was a lie. In my confusion, I cried out for help. I met an Israelite who introduced me to the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, who is described in the Bible as having hair white as wool and eyes red as fire. Yes, the God in the Bible is black.
So we're hearing about the Most High being dark melanated. And I want to make this clear because I know you always get that handful of people that say, well, the Most High have no complexion. The Most High looks, his complexion could be anything. Now, I encourage you guys to read Daniel chapter 7. You'll see it there. You can see that in Ezekiel chapter 1. It makes it clear that the Most High skin complexion is dark, not some olive. Right. You know how these, many of us say olive or Middle Eastern, because when they think about Middle Eastern, they refer it or compare it to the current people, the Turkish people that invaded that territory, that really took over that territory. We start understanding the Ottoman invasion or the Arabic invasion. We're not talking about those people. We're talking about the ancient people where Herodotus, described, for example, the Egyptians being dark melanated people. And you start looking at some of the old, what they would refer to church fathers, referring to the Israelites as being dark melanated people, not some things that we see today. But when did you ever thought that you would see a missionary, a Christian missionary, make comments as what you heard? What about this? What about this? What about this video clip? I got a few of them up here. I'm not going to go through them all. And I should have uploaded some additional ones. But when did you even think that you would even hear comments like this, for example, with this rabbi blatantly blatantly asking the question. He recognized, making it clear that our Igbo brothers and sisters are the people of the book. They're ancient Israelites. But he gave them he asked them a question. Here's the question.
You know what you are? You're an ancient Israelite.
Ancient Israelite, that's who we are. That's who we are. So if you give me time, if you give me time, all that he said.
No, we don't have
so many years.
I know. Look at this. This is pages and pages of notes. And I promise we'll give more teaching. But here is my challenge to you.
All right.
I'm hearing some of your traditions. It's like the days of the Bible.
Yes.
Do you want to remain ancient Israelites, or you want to be Jews? Do you want to remain ancient Israelites, or you want to be Jews? Do you...
Stranger danger! Stranger danger! Stranger danger! Stranger danger!
So when did you StreamYard is acting up, family. Apologies with these clips, delays, and all that. StreamYard is starting to act up here. But anyway, when did you ever thought that you would hear comments like that? When did you ever think that you would hear comments like that? Comments like that. Comments making it clear, of who's who, coming out of the mouths of different people. When did you ever think that you would hear comments that of testimonies that we're hearing now? Matter of fact, what about this testimony right here? Did you guys ever think that you would hear an audio recording about the threat of the younger community within our community? The young people being a threat to the Israeli group down in Atlanta in a secret meeting. Did you think that you'll ever hear something like this?
The major problem of Israel is with the young generation of the Black community. Black Lives Matter starts there. I had last week a sit-down dinner in my house with 40 people which are considered the leadership of the Black community.
I know some of you guys didn't think that you would ever hear a testimony like that. A blatant word stating that who's the threat. And pretty much why. We know why. Did you ever think that you'd hear even this here?
Today, it is prohibited, and you can Google this, to do a DNA test in Israel. Totally forbidden. Wrong. It's illegal. It's a crime. You'll be jailed if you do a DNA test in Israel. Why? Because they know the truth will come out. You come from Poland, you come from Ukraine, you came from Europe, you came from everywhere else. And they were the original Middle Eastern Jews who lived together with the Muslims and the Christians for centuries. For centuries. So what happened to a lot of the Jews?
Did you ever think you would hear that, family? Did you ever think that you would hear, for example, when this whole conflict began and some of the lies about the 40 decapitated babies began to circulate, right? And in the midst of that, without even allowing the truth of information to come out to really give clarity of what's what, of course, did any of you guys even ever thought that you would hear someone come out from within our own community and say such craziness like this, to really go at the very people that Israeli group down in Atlanta said that is a threat? You guys know what I'm talking about, but let me let you hear who this person is. And this person get the Garbage Can Award of the Year. He gets the Chair Award of the Year, and he also get the Hollywood Shuffle Award of the Year. I'll play the Hollywood Shuffle Award immediately after you hear the insults of this guy right here.
I woke up, man, this morning with some disturbing news out of Israel that Hamas kidnapping children, putting them in cages, killing women, killing the elderly. That's some cowards. That's cowardly. And for all y'all Black Lives Matter who ain't saying nothing, Well, let me figure out exactly what happened before I say anything. Huff? Figure out what? It ain't never been cool to kidnap kids and put them in cages. It ain't never been cool to kill women and elderly. Never been. No matter where you from, what you represent, what tribe you for, it don't matter. There ain't never been no cool. There ain't never been none that nobody supported. And then you go and hide and put the kids in front of you as a barricade. That's some cowards. All you politicians who always have something to say on the contrary, I see you. Huff. All you Black Lives Matter people who always had something to say and always supported everything else, and you quiet now, huff too. Only place in the world where I can go and study Torah and eat kosher food. Only place in the world. Only place in the world.
Come on, family. Come on, family. He get that award. He gets that award. Hollywood Shuffle Award goes to Amari Stoudemire. But let's get back to the words, even though it's typed at the bottom. So I encourage you guys to read the captions in the bottom. But listen to what the president of Syria said about the Israelis. Listen to what he said. Of course, it's written at the bottom, the translation.
اليهود الذين أتوا إلى فلسطين هم يهود الخزر شرق قزوين، هم وثنيون و تبعوا الديانة اليهودية في القرن الثامن الميلادي، هاجروا إلى أوروبا وأتوا إلى هذه المنطقة. لا يوجد أي علاقة بينهم وبين شعب إسرائيل.
So the president of Syria said that the current people that is occupying that territory, this whole conflict, made it clear that they are descendants of the Khazars. That's what he said. That's what he said. Which leads me to this very 60-minute clip that's full of contradictions, right? You guys know this. I know this guy. This right here is going to make you get a headache after you hear what this person confess and say, but then at the same time try to cover up. Here we go.
So, a little over 1,000 years ago, as Jewish people scattered around the world had now immigrated in Europe and now were living in the Rhineland in Germany, they looked at the name Gomer in Genesis 10, and they connected Gomer with Germany. So they took on the identity of the name Ashkenaz. It has nothing to do with Ashkenaz in the Bible, which is a descendant of Japhet. It's just a name that was taken. Okay, it's that simple. Just like my last name Brown doesn't refer to the color of my skin or anything else. It was shortened from a Russian name when my grandfather came over at al-Assad, and the name got shortened to Brown. It's just a name. That's all it is. So the idea that Ashkenazi Jews are descended from Japhet is a myth. 100% false.
Now, family, now you know, even with what you just heard, Mike Brown, guess what, family? He gets the Stranger Danger Award. We got to give it to him right now. Stranger Danger.
Stranger danger! Stranger danger! Stranger danger! Stranger danger!
Get that award. Now, family, as a matter of fact, I see my cousin Benaiah Israel inside the building. I'll drop this link, Benaiah, if you want to jump in. Let me drop this link right here. So, family, he gets the Stranger Danger Award. He gets the Stranger Danger Award. Matter of fact, I have to add some additional awards in there, like the Chair Award. Let me add the Chair Award. Where's the chair at? I got to give the chair here. Where's the Chair Award? I mean, the chair. Let me see here. Here's the chair. He has to get the chair. And of course, he has to get the garbage can. We cannot forget about the garbage can. So, family, let me go back to a clip that the president pointed out. The president of Syria pointed out. Let me go back to it because he says something else, and we'll address the Kazarian comments. But I want to go back to what he said initially. Pay attention to this first clip, right? Listen carefully to what he says, and then we'll touch on that as my cousin jumps on here, and when we come back, we'll have him on. But I want you to listen to what he says, and I'm going to give you some information to see whether or not what he stated is facts. Now, let's hear what he says about the Holocaust. Listen to what he says about the Holocaust.
أغلبنا لا يعرف بأن صعود النازية بين الحرب العالمية الأولى والثانية هو كان بدعم أمريكي. الكل يتساءل طيب كيف كان هناك يعني انهيار ألماني وقيود أوروبية، كيف سمحوا للنازية بالصعود وتأسيس جيش بالدعم الأمريكي، بالأموال الأمريكية، بالقروض، بالاستثمارات. 6 ملايين، لا يوجد أي دليل بأن هناك 6 ملايين يهودي قتلوا، وربما حصلت محارق لا أحد ينفيها، وهناك معسكرات اعتقال صحيح، ولكن الدليل على أن هذا الموضوع مسيس وليس إنساني ولا حقيقي. كيف نتحدث عن 6 ملايين ولا نتحدث عن 26 مليون سوفيتي قتلوا في تلك الحرب؟ يعني 6 ملايين أغلى. الممارسات نفسها كانت على كل الاتجاهات، لم يكن هناك طرق قتل مختصة باليهود ولا طريقة تعذيب مختصة باليهود. في كل الأماكن نفس الطريقة استخدمتها النازية، ولكن القضية هي قضية مسيسة ولتزوير الحقيقة ولاحقا للتمهيد لنقل اليهود من أوروبا باتجاه مناطق أخرى هي فلسطين.
All right, family. So you heard with your own ears, of course, and had to read the captions. You know, he is not questioning whether or not the Holocaust actually occurred. He's questioning the numbers. You know, he's questioning the validity of the numbers. And I'm going to share with you information why. Because, and also what he pointed out too, is that when you deal with the Holocaust, it wasn't just, as he pointed out, the Jewish community as we know it, that was you know, subjected to Auschwitz and some of those places. That's what he's saying. He's saying it wasn't just that community. And when you study Germany, then you'll see the ethnic cleansing of our people there. When you start really studying how, I mean, the Black Holocaust, and I'm gonna give you some sources because I have to bring up sources because I don't want anyone, especially that community, to make assumptions or try to flag me because they will try to flag you if you don't actually show sources and read information. So again, he questioned not whether or not the Holocaust existed. He didn't question whether or not there was you know, things that will be considered war crimes along that line according to the Geneva Convention. He questioned the numbers, and he also stated that they, you know, wasn't just in a nutshell, layman's word terms, that it wasn't just that community that was being killed by the Nazis per se, but it's even more we could talk about. But hey, let me bring my cousin on here, Benaya in the building. Family, let's show some love for my cousin here. What's going on, cuz?
Hey, peace and blessings, peace and blessings. How you doing, cuz?
Man, I'm doing great, man. Doing great. You know, forgot to schedule this live. I was like, let me go in and just do it anyway. I didn't think anyone would jump on, but we got a nice crowd tonight. But we're doing good, doing real good.
Good.
Things on your end.
Oh, it's doing good. I'm back here. We call it lambacking in the background. Because when you brought up the Holocaust, one of the websites that I would normally I go to from time to time was the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. Like that's one of the official museums in the U.S. And it's funny because they recently changed the verbiage after we pointed it out. And what we pointed out was the fact that right along the lines of what that gentleman was talking about was they admitted on the website that the numbers it was a composite. Basically, they had to pull those numbers out of multiple sources. In other words, it wasn't as if it was like one single book or one single ledger that they pulled all the names from. They had to gather it from different sources and different places and make calculations and estimates. And in fact, on that website, it literally said an estimate. It literally said an estimate. And we pointed it out. And just to show you that folks do listen to our broadcasts, you know, needless to say, within, I'll say 6 months, the verbiage on that website changed. So just make sure you're doing screenshots when you're doing some of this stuff, family.
Absolutely. You hit it right on the nail. You hit it right on the nail. And I want to say shout outs to Sister Carol. I'll drop the link out for you as well, Sister Carol, because you've been holding it down and really appreciate you. So I'll drop the link for you as well if you want to jump on, if you're able to. And you hit it on the nail, because we know that they're listening, they're watching, and the key family. That's why we made it a point on our end that whatever we say, we're going to make sure we show sources. All right. We don't just say things without showing sources. And like my cousin reiterate, we go to the old sources. Right now, you do have some nuggets in the new stuff the recent, but you still have to go to those old sources. Sometimes you have to go to the footnote of this modern stuff and see what they're making reference to, and they'll reference an old source, and you can even see how they misrepresent the old sources. So want you to elaborate on a few things, because I want you to go geek mode here in a second here, and I just want to kind of touch on what he pointed out for us. The president of Syria, were you aware of what he said about the Kazarian origins of the Israeli people, as well as, of course, I just played the video about the Holocaust, but were you aware of what he said about the origins of them being Khazarians?
Yeah, I believe I saw that one as well, and it's funny because just like you pointed out earlier, that they'll only go so far. They'll say that, well, they're not the people, but they won't dare answer who are the people of the book, because they know that spells doom for them as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And remember, because one of the things I mentioned to you in our private conversation was I'm waiting for nations to start making declarations. Remember that? It's like, we're waiting for that big thing to happen, even though they didn't say we're the people, but just for him, and more we're hearing others challenge them. We're starting to see some things coming out, of the woodwork, so to speak. So let me bring Sister Carol here on. Let's see here. Let's see what we have here. How's it going, Sister Carol?
Hey, peace and blessing, brother. And Benea as well.
Hey, peace and blessing, Sister Carol.
Sister Carol, I thought you was going to give us a Christmas greeting or something. You was a little hesitant, like, yo, I thought you was going to go to, what's his name? What's that movie, Scrooge? The Scrooge, the little boy. We said, God bless everybody. I thought you was going to go Christmas.
Happy Santa Day. Happy Santa Day. Let's see. What am I missing? Am I missing anything? Happy Mistletoe Day.
Right.
I thought you was going to go there, man. It was like...
Sister Carol had me cracking up in the comments, cuz
and before we continue, family, hit that like. We have almost 1,000 people in the building, so let's at least get the like and the subscribes up. If you already subscribed, still double check your to see if is still selected there, because YouTube have a tendency of unsubscribing you without you knowing. And I had several people send me emails and even say that they didn't know that they was unsubscribed. I don't have the abilities to do that. So double check, make sure you still subscribed, and recheck your notification bell button as well. But with that being said, we're just gonna kind of do like an open mic, so to speak, because I had a few things that we could go in on, but I want you to go geek mode. Let Sister Carol give her inputs. But real quick, I just want to share a quick set of slides. You guys already know this here, and some of the people already know this, but I want to at least show it, just so that way we have facts that are being shared, as far as actual sources being shared, so no one can say that we are giving opinions, because you know how they do. They look for anything that they can. Their people could say, or other people could say certain things, but not anyone from our community. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Anyway, but let me just share this real quick with the people and family, just to what my cousin pointed out about how they're starting to change even the verbiage. Here's an example of it. Is the president of Syria's president correct about his assessment? Matter of fact, let me stretch this out here. Is he correct in this assessment? I'm going to show you sources here and let them speak for itself. Why are the coins, for example, prior to the Holocaust, and I got to correct this typo. Why are the coins prior to the Holocaust, right? Why do they have on both sides of this coin? One side they have the swastika, and the other side they have the Zionist symbol, the so-called Star of David. Why, if things were completely the way that we were painted the picture, why do we see two political parties on the same coin? Again, you see the swastika. This is actually coins from Germany. And on the flip side, you see that star. That's the Zionist coin. And notice what you see, Palestinian, right? So why do we see these signs on the same coin, right? And then also, these are some articles that I'm not going to go through each one of the articles, but these are articles you can subscribe to if you go to New York Times and you go to the archive section of the New York Times, right? If you go there, you'll see these articles there. You'll see that they were promoting the 6 million number 30 years prior to the Holocaust, right? This article is dated October 18th, 1918, and you'll see it here. Right down at the bottom here, 6 million Jews, 6 million souls, right? Need help, right? Here's the actual article that is kind of pulling from, but you see here 6 million souls, and that is the actual article that you see here. $1 billion fund to rebuild Jewry, right? This is the New York Times. You have another article, 1919, September 1919. Guess what? We see that same number here. 127,000 Jews have been killed. 6 million are in peril. But notice where this is referring to, the Ukraine. All right. And this is just that the article right here. Excuse me. I'm going click happy here. But this is the article right here that I downloaded from the archives of the New York Times. All right. Here's another one from the New York Times. November 1919. We see that 6 million number, family. Here it is again. About 6 million souls, or half the Jewish population of the earth. So at this time in 1919, they're saying that there was 12 million so-called Jews inside around the world, right? That's what they're saying. Let me upload this video real quick because, there's a reason why that community want to keep that number down, to give the impression that there's just a handful. But again, that's when we get into that deceptive word, Jew. That word Jew is a word of confusion. That is a word that began its conception in terms of being used, GYU, when we look at the Wycliffe Bible, and when they were alliterating it over to the English language, he used GYU, just basically made up a word. And then by the time we get to the 18th century, that's where we see the JEW word, and the political, agendas that was attached to it. And now we're so brainwashed with that word is now we're trying to say that we're the original GYUs, now spelled JEWS, right? How can we be the original of something that was created in the second part of the Middle Ages? Or should we say, we'll just say the Middle Ages for now, or what they refer to it as, now we're trying to say we're the original. And it's right in our face that the word Jew is not, as many of you guys would think, is synonymous to Judah, the tribe. No, they're using the word Jew synonymous to all of Israel, right? So that's why we hear clips like I played with the Rabbi Shapiro. Do you want to remain ancient Israelites, or do you want to become Jews? That is the question. That's why we start hearing stuff like that. Starting with you, Benaiah, what are your thoughts as I upload this video to kind of show that that 6 million number, but then also why they want to keep that number at that level?
Well, first of all, I thought that was a spot on impression. The way you started it and the inflection points was perfect. So, but to your point though, because it's like how I mentioned before the United States Holocaust Museum and how they on that website how they updated the text to go from a language of estimate to now is more of an assured 6 million. So it says 6 million definitively, and what a lot of these people are calling out. And to your point, they're not saying that it did not occur. They're just calling into question what it says or what it used to say on the encyclopedia, which is an estimate. And by definition, an estimate is not an exact number. And what I like is if you guys ever get a chance and you go to the Holocaust Encyclopedia and you'll scroll down, you'll be able to read a bunch of things and it'll give you some definitive numbers. It'll say definite 6 million, definite 6 million. And then there's a table in there about halfway down and it says table 1, breakdown and explanation of how 6 million Jewish people were murdered in the Holocaust. And then when they start giving you the numbers, then the numbers go from being specific to being estimates. Like it says, number of Jews murdered, it says approximate, right? Approximately 2.7 million. Then it says about 2 million. And it says between 800,000 in a million. And then it says at least, so in other words, they go from specific numbers to estimates and rough numbers, which is fine, but it's just that it just goes to prove the point that these numbers are not being pulled from a single source. They're being pulled from multiple sources, and then there's calculations made on top of that. And last comment, because it's like to your point, is that the main thing that people leave out is the fact that the Holocaust started in Africa. Like it literally started in Africa, and that's right. That's what people leave out. Like in the Times of Israel, there was an article in December the 31st. Actually, I guess that was today. That's
yeah. Now you can have a book of a
Wow.
Jehovah Witness. A Jehovah Witness actually wrote a book years ago. I still had that book.
Yeah,
dealing with the Black Holocaust, dealing with this situation over in Africa before, how they use Africa as kind of like the guinea pigs for Germany.
Yep. And I actually misread that date. It's August the 29th, 2018 in the Times of Israel. And it says the genocide of African tribes was Germany's Holocaust dress rehearsal. Basically, it happened first. It happened first in Africa. When you see the emaciated people, that was in Africa first. When you see them doing experiments on people without any medication, that was in Africa first. And then they took it over into Germany. And yes, it happened to what we would call Caucasians, but it also happened to Africans in Germany. Like that's the part that they leave out, and that to me, that just kind of points to this whole white supremacist undertone to a lot of these teachings.
Man. And Sister Carol, did you want to say anything? I thought you was going to say, I heard you say something.
No, I was just shocked with what he had just said, but now it makes sense because in the Life book that I have, and I think you also have a copy of, where it describes, they know who we are because it's inside their book. So that lets us know that they had already started the extermination of us as a trial run before they instituted it over to their own people. I mean, look what King Leopold did. He's a prime example of the extermination that they were doing and how many he killed in Africa. So that makes absolute sense they would use us again, because the bottom line is they want to get rid of us. So we would never discover what all this is going on that they've been doing. There's all these documentations that they wrote was for their records. We were never supposed to recognize and understand all this. This is their way. This is their documentation of being proud of their works that they did, so they can pass it on to the next generation of children. So that's why the number 6,000 was programmable to the world, so we can continue to remember that. So when this is discussed, that number always sticks out. Part of their propaganda.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And here I found the clip here that I want to upload because here we see on you guys' screen November 12th, 1919. It tells us that what 6 million souls or half of the Jewish population of the earth. You know how it goes. Some they got when they write stuff, they got to really make it so that way, that 5 alarm fire. You know what I mean? As you see here, a pattern here. But this is the article that I downloaded from the archives of New York Times, and it says it here about 6 million souls or half the Jewish population of the earth. And this article is from November 12th, 1919. Now, let you hear this clip from this Jewish YouTuber who's very popular. His name is Shapiro. He's been on, what's his name? Pierce Morgan. But listen to what he says. All right, let's try it again. There's only 6. Let me stop. But anyway, but you hear him say that there's what 7 million Jews per se, and I don't even like using that word. That's in. Oh, you guys didn't hear audio? Let me try it again.
No, we heard.
Let me try one more time because I see some people posting no audio. I'll play it one more time. Did you guys hear? Did you hear audio? Benet and Sister Carol.
That at first, but then later on it came in.
Let me try one more time because you know how StreamYard does, and then hopefully I may have to look at my email to make sure that they're not trying to take the video down while we're going live, because we've had that happen before. But let me play the clip one more time.
So the way to talk about the Jewish community in general, there are not very many Jews on the planet. Due to conspiracy theories, people tend to think there are tens of millions of Jews on the planet. The grand total number of Jews on planet Earth is about 15 million. About 7 million who live in the state of Israel. There are about 6 million who live in the United States.
Yep. It came through on my speakers.
Yep, it came through fine. Now, my question is this.
All right, hold on one second. Real quick, family.
Okay.
I just want to point to the people. Yes, some of you guys that if you're not getting audio, you may want to just refresh your browser or close out your browser and open it up again, because I heard it, and there's some even inside the chat that actually said that they heard it as well. So for those that are not, refresh your browser. But as you heard what he said that there's only 13 million Jews around the world. There's 7 million in Israel and 6 million in the United States. So that's just a full of contradictions, because he said there's 13 million Jews around the world, 7 million is in Israel, and 6 million in the United States. So just off of what he just said, so basically saying is there's none existing in any other places. But you still notice that he still was trying to keep that number down, as just like what we see here, 6,000 souls or half the Jewish population. So that's suggesting at this time in November 12th, 1919, that there were per se 12 million Jews in the earth. So they, according to him, they only increased 1 million in almost over like 103 years, 104 years, because we can return over a new year. You got the floor, since Carol, and then Makaz could jump in afterwards.
No, I was going to say, if that's
you was
going
to say what, Sister Carol? You was going to say what?
If you have half of them gone, you had 6 million souls still living in 1919, and 1948. They went to Israel. How many went to Israel? That was of the 6 million souls that still were living. They were killed. Half were killed. So we had 6 million left. So all these 6 million went to Israel. How was 6 million went to Israel and you still had some in the United States? And he had some in Europe. Math is not mathing, which begs now why they want to convert so many people over to being Jews.
Oh, that's a whole nother discussion because no, I'm not going to go there yet. Let's keep that one. I don't want to get there yet. You know what I mean? You know how it goes. We could go geek mode, but I don't want to get there yet.
And because if Johnny had 5 apples, and then Susan ate 2 of those apples, you still have 5 apples?
No, you don't. You have 6 million.
Okay.
You have 6 million. You have 6 million.
Well, where's
you have
this
6
tree
million.
where these apples came from? Because it's not apple. That is the math. It's not mathing.
Well, let me allow one of my comrades. Let him explain the math.
So, a little over 1,000 years ago, as Jewish people scattered around the world had now immigrated in Europe and now were living in the Rhineland in Germany, they looked at the name Gomer in Genesis 10, and they connected Gomer with Germany, so they took on the identity of the name Ashkenaz. It has nothing to do with Ashkenaz in the Bible, which is a descendant of Japhet. It's just a name that was taken. Okay, it's that simple. Just like my last name Brown doesn't refer to the color of my skin or anything else. It was shortened from a Russian name when my grandfather came over at al-Assad, and the name got shortened to Brown. It's just a name. That's all it is. So the idea that Ashkenazi Jews are descended from Japhet is a myth, 100% false.
Well, the thing so you have to listen to what he said, because so he said Brown was shortened. What I want to know is what was it a shortened version of what? You know what I mean? Like Brownvenstein, or like what? Like what's the
was it Brown? I've seen this name before. Bruno Geiger.
I'm not even going to try to guess it, quite honestly.
Right.
I mean, but yeah. I am peace. Yeah, let me give the Stranger Danger award real quick to that video you just heard.
Stranger danger! Stranger danger! Stranger danger! Stranger danger!
Yeah, I see Brownsfield and Brown Swagger in the chat, but either way, I think, and shout out to Brother Dante Forson for pointing this out months ago, where he talked about how he pointed out the fact that once Dr. Brown made that statement, he made the point that, so you're saying that the Ashkenaz stole somebody else's identity.
Yeah.
So he's like, so basically that's what you're saying. You're saying that they went and found and moved into a territory and then stole somebody else's identity. And I'm not sure he thought that all the way through when he made that statement, but it is what it is.
Exactly. And before we go down to that road, that path, real quick, of the discussing the Kazarian, the origin of them, let me just close out this thought real quick about the 6 million. I'm not going to get into the 6 million number. I encourage you guys go back and look at some of the videos that I taught about. They know that that Israel is not this Israel, and I really break down from the Kabbalah perspective why 6 million is prevalent. Why 600,000 times 10 is prevalent. But again, here's another article right here, May 7th, 1920, right? Notice what you're going to see here, right? And in the back, this is the search results, just to let you know that I got this off of New York Times, right? This is their archives, right? And so we see how they're asking for resources, but we see that 6 million number again. And when we go to the original article, even though this title is here, behind it, you'll see 6 million. I mean, that 6 million is a mystical number when you start understanding the Kabbalah. And this is why I say it again, none of our brothers and sisters that are in this truth, or any of you guys that know who you are, none of us should be going into that Kabbalah. None of us. That Kabbalah is filled with all kinds of mysticism that is what purposely put in place to shift I will focus from what the Torah actually says, the law and the prophets actually says, and begin to program you to accept another Messiah, to accept a culture that's not yours. You know what I mean? To convert to something, to convert, as we say, convert to being a Jew from being an ancient Israelite. But anyway, as you see here, it says we're 6 million face horrifying conditions. So I want to take the wording out so that way you guys can see clearly this article, that I'm not making this up. This is, you can download this from the archives of New York Times. You don't have to pay. You know what I mean? We invest in these resources. So I encourage you guys, invest. You know, if you want to see some of these articles and this information we're sharing, you know, if you want to vet the sources. Now, they're getting to a place now, more and more, a lot of these sources are not free. They're starting to make it so that way you pay for them. But nevertheless, let's go here. Why are these articles important? The Jewish community began to promote the narrative of 6 million Jewish victims 30 years before the Holocaust. And I want to turn your attention to this article here just to kind of, you know, to reinforce what the point that Benaya made about the Jewish Museum. It says here, Poland agrees to change Auschwitz tablets. And this, I've been pulling this article out for years, but notice what it says here. Poland agrees to change Auschwitz tablets after 50 years of deflecting the request of Jewish groups. The Polish government has agreed to change the wording on these stone tablets at Auschwitz and Birkenau. The adjacent Nazi camps where more than 1 million Jews died during World War II. The move follows decades of appeals by Jewish groups who say the current plaques do not fully reflect the suffering of Jews there and focus too heavily on the camp's non-Jewish victims. So those tablets initially said 4 million, and they reduced it to saying just over 1 million in terms of Jews. So is it saying that those original numbers, right, the 4 million reduced to like 1.5 million or less? So are they saying that 2.5 million people were per se Jewish? It still tied into that ethnic cleansing when it came to our people in Germany. It's documented. So it goes on to say, while thousands of non-Jews were among the estimate 1.5 million killed at Auschwitz, the victims were predominantly Jewish. Predominantly is not an exact number, going back to that word estimate. Predominantly, you could say predominantly and just deal with 12 people. It's how you use certain words to kind of take away or allow you to kind of fill in the blank. But notice what it says here, right? These are the two tablets. This is the original on the right. This is what's there on, on my left, and on my right, this is what's there now. The original tablet says 4 million people suffered and died here at the hands of the Nazi murderers between the years 1940 and 1945. Notice it doesn't say 4 million Jews. It says 4 million people suffered. And as that article pointed out, it's not accurately telling you who's who. It says that it's placing more emphasis of the non-Jewish community, as what the article stated. And that's why those the Polish community, Jewish community per se, they began to come together, and they began to bring it up and saying that the facts need to, they need to post the facts. So on the right here, this is what is currently being displayed. I'll zoom it in. It says, forever let this place be a cry of despair and a warning to humanity, where the Nazis murdered about 1.5 million men, women, and children, mainly Jews. Wording is everything, family. And I want to make it clear, we're not saying that no one died over there, right? We're not saying that, because I believe that, hey, innocent life is an innocent life. They had death trains that they were putting people on, misleading them, and they were going right to concentration camps. So we're not saying that something didn't happen, but what we're doing is sharing articles, and we're letting you be the judge, be the jury, right, so to speak, of the point that the Syrian president made. He didn't say that nothing happened, but he's questioning the numbers. And here we see with proof, here it says 500,000 men, women, and children, mainly Jews from various countries of Europe. Mainly Jews from various countries of Europe. I'll say it one more time. Mainly Jews from various countries of Europe. So just this number alone, if they saying that it was 6 million, so you subtract 2.5 million. Is that the right math here? Yeah, 2.5 million. You subtract 2.5 million. That's just here. If you go into the Jewish Almanac, they give you a list, and you'll see the numbers of each site is much lower than what's being broadcasted. And that's in the Jewish Encyclopedia in 1980 that I talk about, I make reference to regularly. So I'm going to open it up to you guys. Any comments that you guys want to share?
I was going to say, if I could land back on what you just said, Pastor Kelly. So in a lot of these periodicals and these articles, you know, they are always tend to leave out the Negroes. So, I mean, history would have you think that there was no black people in Germany at this time. And that's far from the fact. Like all these numbers, anytime they're talking about concentration camps, anytime they're talking about experiments, you know, on people, I mean, even on kids. I mean, if you guys ever have a chance, Google Rhineland bastards, and that in the articles that will come up from that deals with the mixed race, like the mix between the Africans that were in Germany at the time who had kids, you know, with the Caucasians. But that was just the kids, and they were euthanizing those kids without, you know, anesthesia, you know, kids. And also we have comments by Hitler or someone in his cabinet himself talking about how they hated Negroes worse than Jews. Like they hated Negroes, you know, worst of all, because, you know, of course they were, you know, considered like the Aryan race, right? And they were trying to pursue, you know, just in case someone's in the chat saying, what does he mean by they? I'm primarily talking about the Caucasian Nazis, right? So they were the white supremacists, right? They were the ones that were looking for the blue eyes, the blonde hair, the white skin. And it's obvious that black folks are not that, right? We're the opposite of that, right? So as you can imagine, our forefathers in Germany were the target of a lot of the hatred. I mean, it was worse for us than it was for them. And I'll just give you this one last example before I turn it over. And that is during World War II, right? Whenever a pilot was shot down, a Caucasian pilot was shot down, they would usually take him to a POW camp. But if that pilot so happened to be a Negro pilot, they would take him around to the back and shoot him. Like his destination wasn't normally the POW camp, right? His destination was usually the grave. But I'll turn it over at that, Gus.
No, you hit it right on the nail. You hit it right on the nail. Sister Carol, did you want to say anything?
No, Benea took care of that. I mean, it's nothing to add to that because we were the target. We've always been the target. And like Benea said, you would think we were only in Africa. We were all over Europe. We were all in these countries. And the biggest thing is they wanted to exterminate us. They did not want to leave any trace of us anywhere because their prototype was the athletic, blue-eyed, blonde, Aryan person. That's what they wanted to project. They must be athletic. It couldn't be non-athletic either.
I mean, there's so many.
They want us mixing with them.
Yeah, I was just going to land back on what you just said, Sister Carol. It's like we're talking about the Aryan race. I mean, even if you look at the origin of the Aryan race, it's close to the Caucasus Mountains. Like,
yes.
You know, it's close to the kingdom of the Khazars. So they're telling you where they come from.
Exactly. Oh, and by the way, the Russian Surname for Brown is Braun. It's Braun. So that is Russian. Surname.
Okay. And to you guys' point, even with the Caucasus, right? The Caucasus Mountain, and I know, Benet, you did some videos that really goes really into the details of this here. But this is a linguist, an Ashkenazi linguist, and he's making it clear that his people did not originate in that land. I'll play it one more time. Here we go.
Well, there are two levels of discussion here. One is about the facts on the ground and what should be done with it. Turn to that in a minute. A second is questions of what terminology to use to describe what's happening. Here, you can decide that you are willing to live in a bubble as distinct from the entire world. You're free to do that. There are three notions that came up. The biblical rights, which have absolutely no status, none. Nobody in the world can say, 2,000 years ago, here's my story of what happened, so therefore I have a right to do it now. You can't live in a world like that. Nobody in the world ever makes such a claim. You want to make it, okay, but then just admit, I'm out of the world, distinct from the world. Now, yes, totally distinct. If you really want to play that game, the Palestinians have more of a right to claim to be descendants of the population from 2,000 years ago than I do. My ancestors probably come from the Caucasus. Their ancestors come from Palestine.
All right. Any thoughts, guys?
Yeah, that's backed up by that recent DNA article that you found. I don't know if you have that one handy, but that recent DNA article that came out, I believe it was an Israeli article that talked about it. They found the founder DNA group of the Ashkenaz. And I believe they trace it back to roughly 300 ancient people that once lived in Italy. And what they did was that when they took a look at that group, these were ancient DNA samples. They found that group could be separated into two groups, right? One group they could trace back to countries like Saudi Arabia and countries around that area, and then the other was what they referred to in the report as Russia, but what they meant was the Caucasus Mountains. And so, like I said, family, there's really no getting away from it now. I mean, with all the DNA that's coming out, this DNA is really zeroing in on where people are coming from and what their origins are.
Yeah, you hit it right on the nail, because I was trying to find that article. You know how it goes. You have so many presentations. It's like when you go to the next one, it's almost like your mind kind of shuts down to the previous lesson, and it's like, man, you just completely forget. I know I have it here. Are you referring to the one from the Nature Communication? That one?
Yeah, it was picked up by multiple multiple newspapers. So I saw it in different places because everyone took it and they kind of wrote their own write-up about it.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about too. Let me see. Yeah. I may have it here.
Yeah, it's in multiple places. And the funny thing about DNA is coming at this question in multiple directions. Like, so that's one direction, right? So the direction where they found the founder group, and from that founder group, they were able to say where folks came from. And then the other easy button, I think this is like the easy button when it comes to DNA. They have this thing in DNA, called haplogroups, right? These are groups of on the father's side or on the mother's side. Well, on the father's side, within the like the Ashkenazi population, there's multiple Y haplogroups that make up the population. But when you look at some of the majority population sections, those sections, when you look up the origin of it, because basically what they've done is that they took a look and they said, they trace back the origin of each of those haplogroups separately, like regardless of who people are, where they come from, what ethnicity that they claim. Like, these haplogroups are what scientists sat down and figured on a piece of paper in a map and said, hey, haplogroup 1 or Y comes from here, haplogroup A comes from here, haplogroup J comes from here. And the thing is, family, and they've done this a long time ago, right? This is a separate study, they came up with this a long time ago. And what we've missed all this time was that when we did a profile of, like, for example, like the Ashkenazi community, that profile, which had the DNA haplogroups, all we had to do was open the information that the geneticists put in their book as far as where the haplogroups came from. That's all we had to do, because what it does is that it tells us that haplogroup R1B1, like R1B1A, comes from the Caucasus. Haplogroup J2 comes from the Caucasus, right? And not only does it come from the Caucasus, it comes from the location of biblical Ashkenaz. Biblical Ashkenaz. So, like I said, family, this puzzle is being solved from multiple directions.
And I think let me see here. I think I was pulling it up. I'm trying to pull it up here. Let's see here. You know how it goes. Once you think you have it, you can continue, because I was just looking for that article.
Okay.
Here.
Good.
I know I have it here.
Yep. No worries. I was going to say, and not only that, another I guess you can call it like an attack vector that's helping to prove, that people are who they are. And that is, so you got the DNA thing, right? So DNA, you got the haplogroups tell you where people come from. And that's when you have Dr. Brown say things like, oh yeah, we're not related to the Caucasus, but all you have to do is turn around and ask them, oh, okay, so what's your haplogroup? So he gives you his haplogroup, then you go to the haplogroup map, and you say, well, hey, look, your haplogroup's up here by the Caucasus, right? So that's one. And then the other has to do with what we call cranial analysis, which is the study of the skulls. So it's funny because when you look at Israel, when you look at the territory of Israel, and you have all these studies, archaeological sites, and what they're doing, they're digging up bones, they're trying to extract DNA. It's funny, family, is that, and Dr. Aaron Elhike mentioned this, it's like, out of all these different sites out of Israel that they're pulling this data out, the data that they're not sharing with you or sharing with us is the ancient DNA data that they're extracting from the territory of Judea, or the south side of Judah, or basically where we would come from. Like that information they don't share, like, for whatever reason, which we know, because we think that it's, if they ever shared it, it would be a 100% match for us. But that information, under lock and key, like Dr. Aaron Elhike said, he doubts that it would ever see the light of day. So if you ever wonder why, when you take your DNA, why you don't have any matches in Israel, that's why, because they're not releasing that DNA from that part of the map, because they, in my opinion, they are afraid of who's going to be the daddy that shows up on the DNA test. But aside from that, family, there's also a study of skulls. So one of the next door neighbor cities to Jerusalem is a city called Lachish. You guys may have heard me bring this up before, but in the city of Lachish, according to the biblical narrative, King Sennacherib comes and he conquers Lachish. There's a massacre that occurred there, a mass gravesite that was put together. All the victims were thrown in there, and so they had like over 600 plus skulls. They looked at the skulls, analyzed the skulls, and guess what? They were skulls of Black people. They were skulls of Black people, and this is one of those easy button things. When they look at skulls nowadays, family, there's a value called a cephalic index, and anytime the value of the cephalic index is above 75 and up, those values are usually the skulls of Europeans. Like Ashkenazis today have a higher cephalic index of greater than 75. And usually African Americans or Negro people have cephalic index values of 75 and below. So guess what the cephalic index of the skulls in Lachish, in the city of Lachish, during the time of like around 701 BC, it was 75 and below, which meant that they were Black people. So that's what I'm saying, family. Like, all this information is coming out, is they can't really refute it. Even if they say that, oh, look, we found a Black-white person, it's not really going to work out, because we got the skulls and we have the descriptions of the Israelites during that time.
And to your point, what you was making reference to, and family, here's some of the articles, and I'll drop this link inside the comments section. This is one of the articles that links. The Ashkenazi Jewish community as we know them today to 330 people. So I'm going to post a link here and I'm going to read it real quick and I'll give you guys the floor. Here, let me just post this link here. All right. Let's see here. And before I read the source, I'm going to give shout outs to Eric Tinsley. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Israel for Israel. Absolutely. Really appreciate it again. Family, let's show Brother Eric some love for the contribution tonight. All right. So this is what Benaiah was referring to. DNA ties Ashkenazi Jews to a group of just 330 people from the Middle Ages. And family, when we think of the Middle Ages, we can't connect this to the antiquities. Antiquities, that's generally a term used for the ancient times, the time of the Messiah prior. Now, when we start getting into the Middle Ages, that's where the confusion come into play, right? You have the Middle Ages and you have the Dark Ages, right? The Middle Ages is supposed to be the proper portion of that entire span. The Dark Ages is when the Moors ruled that territory, right? And then this is where we really start getting into understanding the Kazarians, how they converted to Judaism, so to speak, how they converted to Christianity, how they ultimately formed that alliance that we see today. All right. But anyway, this is the article right here. It's titled DNA Ties Ashkenazi Jews to a Group of Just 330 People from the Middle Ages. Right. And it says here, so says a new study in the journal Nature Communication. I remember when I first made reference to this article years ago, I was like, wait a minute, let me go to the Nature Communication. I want to read that publication. Right. But nevertheless, this is what it says. And we have the Nature Communication information here. And I'll let you elaborate on that as well, Benaiah. But it says, so says a new study in the journal Nature Communications. An international team of scientists sequenced the complete genomes of 120 28 healthy Ashkenazi Jews and compared each of those sequences with the others, as well as with the DNA of 26 Flemish people from Belgium. The analysis allowed them to trace the genetic roots of the populations to a founding group in the Middle Ages. Ashkenaz in Hebrew refers to Germany, right? The descendant of Gomer, right? Under Japheth, not a Shemitic people, dealing with Japheth, right? But it says Ashkenaz in Hebrews refer to Germany. And Ashkenazi Jews are those who originated in Eastern Europe. I got to play this one more time. I know this is going to get up under Sister Carol's skin because I know it make her cringe every time I play it. But I got to play it one more time because just by me read, it says Ashkenazi Jews, it's the LA Times, are those who originated in Europe. Let's listen to you guys' favorite teacher, favorite educator right now.
Go ahead. Ugh.
So, a little over 1,000 years ago, as Jewish people scattered around the world had now emigrated in Europe and now were living in the Rhineland in Germany, they looked at the name Gomer in Genesis 10, and they connected Gomer with Germany, so they took on the identity of the name Ashkenaz. It has nothing to do with Ashkenaz in the Bible, which is a descendant of Japhet. It's just a name that was taken. Okay, it's that simple. Just like my last name Brown doesn't refer to the color of my skin or anything else. It was shortened from a Russian name when my grandfather came over at al-Assad, and the name got shortened to Brown. It's just a name. That's all it is. So the idea that Ashkenazi Jews are descended from Japhet is a myth, 100% false.
All right, family. Wow. I just had to play that again. So, and the sad thing about it is people actually believe that. Now, if it was anyone from our community making comments like that, they have all kinds of videos made about us. They'll have all kinds of videos made about us. I want to say shout outs to Yellow Rose. Really appreciate it. As a librarian, I appreciate your scholarship and sources cited. Really appreciate it. Thank you for the love and support. And family, let's show Yellow Rose some love. And it's not easy being a librarian. And I know she
No, it's not.
sees the shifting of how information is being disseminated, you know, even just trying to retire certain books. You're right. But I really appreciate your hard work and what you do. And thank you for the love and support tonight. Really appreciate you. All right. So again, this is telling us here that the Ashkenazi Jews are those who originated in Eastern Europe. And Sister Carol, I think I'm getting feedback on your channel.
Okay, me put my mic on. Mute on.
Yeah. All right. So this is the source here, because I'll let you go into this, you know, because I know you break it down really good for the people to understand it in layman's terms. You know, I don't have that gift that you have. I'm a geek. So all I know is, you know, X's and O's. So you know what I mean? But anyway, sequencing and Ashkenazi reference panel supports population targeted personal genomics and illuminates Jewish and European origins. Received 24 June 2014, accepted 28 July 2014, published the 9th of September 2014. This is what the LA Times made reference to. In summary, making it clear that the Ashkenazi Jewish community originated in Europe. All right. So this is that article here. It says the Ashkenazi Jews, and this is where you see the acronym AJ, population. And I'll drop this article name inside the chat so you guys can look it up. You have to purchase this. I had to purchase this years ago. But it says the Ashkenazi Jewish population is a genetic isolate close to European and Middle Eastern groups. And this is where I'll allow my cousin to explain, because when you look at this on the surface, when we start dealing with Middle Eastern, they selected the Iranians per se and tried to compare them to English people. They're not taking all the people that originated in the area, like what Benaya alluded to with the Lakesh, you know, the information on that. They hand selected a group. So if you compare them, the Iranians, to, for example, let's just say, what's a good example? Romania. Of course, you'll see a difference, right? But if you compare them, as he pointed out, to, let's just say, groups that actually originated in the Northeast Africa, then you'll see that they're not even related. And I'll let you explain that here in a second, Benay, because you can explain it better than I can. I'll see if I can pull the clip up here as well. But nevertheless, it says the Ashkenazi Jews, AJ population is a genetic isolate close to European and Middle Eastern groups with genetic diversity patterns conducive to disease mapping. Here we report high-depth sequencing of 128 complete genomes of Ashkenazi Jews and Jews controls. And keep in mind, none of these tests that they created, none of our people or any dark melanated people from that area was included in these testing. It was a select hand-picked group of people, Europeans mostly, but again, with the exception, when you put the Iranians there, that's what they used. So it says, compared with European samples, our AJ Ashkenazi Jewish panel has 47% more novel variants per genome and is 8-fold more effective at filtering benign variants out of Ashkenazi Jews' clinical genomes. Our panel improves imputation accuracy for Ashkenazi Jews, SNP arrays by 28%, and covers at least one haplotype in 67% of any Ashkenazi Jews genome, with long identical bidecent segments. Reconstruction of recent Ashkenazi Jew history from such segments confirms a recent bottleneck of merely 350 individuals. Now, in the LA Times, it said 330, but this says 350. But the key is when they say bottleneck, they're dealing with the origin of these people in this area, not from the Middle East, not from Northeast Africa. That's the proper clarity of this, the territory referring to. So when you even hear them say the Levant, that's just a glorified term to say Northeast Africa, right? And I'll show you a source here. The Ashkenazi geneticist, Aaron Elhake, as my cousin pointed out, and I'll read something what he posted, making it clear that they are not related to no one in the territory. All right, but I'll turn it over to you, Benea, if you want to go ahead and explain what I just shared here on the screen.
Yeah, depending on which article you read, I know sometimes it might be hard to follow, but just to make a couple of points on what you just read, Pastor Kelly. So it's like, family, like there's an easy button to this article, and the easy button is like it. You know, when you take a look at that research, if you know where to look on that page, they will actually give you an Excel spreadsheet of all the ancient individuals that they took DNA from. So basically, you know, it's like an Excel spreadsheet of all the individuals that they refer to as like ancient DNA. And in that Excel spreadsheet, there's a column that says Y haplogroup, right? And the easy button is just going down and taking those Y haplogroups. And usually, for the most part, family, for that 350, you know, the Y haplogroups, they usually fall into like 4, you know, 3 or 4 different haplogroups that make up that 350. And it's usually J2, it's usually R1B1A, or, you know, you might have a few sprinkled in there of E1B1B. And what we're saying, family, is the easy button is taking that J2 and just look up where J2 comes from. You know, go to Google, where does J2 originate from? A haplogroup, Y haplogroup. And it will tell you the Caucasus Mountains. Hey, Google, where does R1B1A come from? Enter, you know, search enter. It'll show you the Caucasus Mountains, you know, and if you don't know, the Caucasus Mountains, that area over there, you know, it's a mountain ridge that goes between like the Caspian Sea and the Black Sea. And below the Caucasus Mountains is the ancient territory of Ashkenaz, like biblical Ashkenaz. And above it is, you know, the ancient territory of the Khazars. Sometimes they kind of mix together because over time the territories, you know, the people on the north side conquer the people on the south, and the people on the south conquer the people on the north. So that it fluctuates over time. So over time they kind of became one and the same people. But DNA wise, it points to that same area. Like that's the easy button, you know, for all that information that's in that article.
And just to your point, because I'm gonna share another article, and maybe this is one that'll help clear up some stuff as well. Explain what you just pointed out. This is coming from another article from Academic or whatever, but it says localizing Ashkenazic Jews to primeval villages in ancient Iranian lands of Ashkenaz. And this is going to also fully confirm what you just pointed out. It says an analysis of 393 Ashkenazic, Iranian, and Mountain Jews and over 600 non-Jewish genomes. But this is not dealing with our people. This is all dealing with Europeans, pretty much. Genomes demonstrated that Greeks, Romans, Iranians, Turks exhibit the highest genetic similarity with Ashkenazi Jews. And this is kind of bringing in that point that you made when he start opening it up to other groups, of course, not including us, you start seeing their closest relationship. The geographic population structure analysis localized most Ashkenazi Jews along major primeval trade routes in northeastern Turkey adjacent to primeval villages with names that may be derived from Ashkenaz. Iranian and Mountain Jews were localized along trade routes on the Turkey's eastern border. Loss of maternal haplogroups was evident in non-Yiddish speaking Ashkenazi Jews. Our results suggest that Ashkenazi Jews originated from a Slavo-Iranian confederation, which the Jews called Ashkenazic, in other words, Scythians. Though these Jews probably spoke Persian or Assadi, this is compatible with linguistic evidence suggesting that Yiddish is a Slavic language created by Irano-Turco-Slavic Jewish merchandise. All right. So anything you want to share on that, Cuz?
Yeah, I hate to overuse the term the easy button, but even with the Scythians, right? Like, so they have, like, you know, ancient DNA from, you know, people that they identified as Scythians or Yamnaya. Like, those people are they come from the same territory, just different time, right? And so they extracted the DNA from those people. And the easy button is just looking at the haplogroup that they identified for the people of the Scythians, looking at the haplogroup of the people that they identified of the Yamnaya. And then, again, both of those people are from the territory of the Khazars. So you take the haplogroups of those people and you just simply compare it to the haplogroup of the founder group of the Ashkenaz, and guess what? It's a match. so like I said, all this the DNA information that's coming out is really solidifying who people are, who they're not, and, you know, it's just either people don't know it says what it says, or they're just refusing to accept, you know, the facts on the ground.
Hit it on the nail. And this is from Britannica about the Scythians, because Dr. Brown would tell you that, and others try to say the Scythians, they disappeared. They just mysteriously disappeared. And they basically, according to him, hijacked their identity. But it says here, Scythians are also called Scyth, Saka, Sake, member of a nomadic people originally of Iranian stock, known from as early as the 9th century BCE, before the Common Era, who migrated westward from Central Asia to southern Russia and Ukraine in the 8th and 7th century BCE. Right? So this is giving you some additional information on the Scythian. All right. And family, as I see some of the conversations is starting to go a little left a little bit. Let's be respectful. Let's stay on topic, because that can be a distraction for those that truly want to learn this information, you know, because so many people want to just know what this stuff is and how to really articulate it, how to bring it all together. And what we're trying to do tonight is we're trying to help our brothers and sisters pull this all together, because, again, this is a lot of information. It's a lot of information. And we know that it can be the challenge in all of this is trying to bring all of this together. And so that's why I just want to make it clear. Let's be respectful in the chat. You know, let's not get caught up into side conversations, because that can be a distraction. Sister Carol, did you want to share anything?
Yeah, to your point, I was going to say the reason why we're discussing this, someone, I think it was El Pollo Loco, someone called him Mr. Crazy Chicken because of his handle of his name. He asked a question of why are we discussing this? What is the importance of that? Now we know who these people are. What does it have to do with us? Well, the reason why we need to know who they are and who our other people are, because we never discussed the genetics of the people on the planet. There's a gathering that's supposed to happen, and the Most High is going to gather a certain people. We know who those people are going to be gathered. It's not going to be these people who call themselves the chosen people. So if they're not the chosen people, then who are they? Who are the people all listed in Genesis 10? We never discussed this. So we're breaking this down for you to understand who the people are and who have been our enemies. We have enemies among us as well among our within us. That's why we're doing this tonight. That's why we're discussing this. So you have a full understanding of who these people are, where they came from, and why they're doing what they're doing. That's the reason
Absolutely.
why.
It reminds me of over here in the States, we've been unfortunately the victims of police brutality and also white supremacy, right? So where a lot of us are running over to Africa, and I have no complaints about it, about folks going over to Africa, because I do believe at some point in time, everybody will be heading over in that direction. But my point is that I think people have like this misconception, to your point, Sister Carol, that once we get over there, oh man, it's all black people. Woo. Oh, we're safe. Oh, we don't have anything to worry about. All black folks going to treat me right. They're not going to be my enemy. It's like, whoa, easy there. If you don't know, Esau is over there, and
hello.
And we got some black forms of Esau over there. I mean, to people who say, Esau's a white man, I will tell you that, what I tell people is that, like, Esau is a chameleon. Like, he's white in Europe, he's black in Africa, he's Chinese in China, he's Japanese in Japan, right? Usually, whatever area you find him in, that's what he's going to look like. So he's not going to stick out like a sore thumb. But so that just goes to my point. Like, so in Africa, you better be careful. You better be careful, just like you better be careful over here in the States of who you partner with.
That's right.
Because if you don't know who's your enemy and who's your friend, you might be, last thing you want to do is get in the boat with your enemy.
Correct. That part.
Absolutely. And another point I want to point out, since I mentioned this, family, and I'll drop the link inside the comments section. And I encourage you guys to thoroughly read this. This is Professor and also Doctor. He's a geneticist, Elhake. Am I pronouncing his name? I always mess his name. Aaron Elhake.
Yeah, I think it's Elhake, but I'm sure he'll correct us.
Okay.
Forgive us, Dr. Elhake, if you're listening.
And I'm not going to read it all, but this is a key point that I want you to pay attention to, and you'll be able to read the entire article when I drop the link in the comment section. Previous studies had, for example, combined the question of similarity among and between Jewish populations and the question of ancestry and relatedness to non-Jewish populations. Elhake viewed these questions separately. Jewish communities are less homogeneous than is popularly thought. He says, with Jewish communities along the former Kazarian border showing the most, I'm not even going to butcher this here, right? Here, is it heterogeneity? How do we pronounce it? This is your area right here, Sister Carol, so I'm not going to butcher it. But it goes on to say his second question centered on ancestry when comparing Jewish communities to their non-Jewish neighbors, Caucasus or Levant. And notice what he put here next to Levant, Middle Eastern. So family, some people throw around that Levant. They're coming up with all these terms to further take you away from Northeast Africa. All right. Populations, which is the closest to Jews? And this is a question, which is the closest to Jews, right? And trying to say what areas are closer to these Jewish community, the Ashkenazi Jews, as we see. But it says all your Asian Jewish communities are closer to Caucasus populations. He writes, with Central European Jews closer to Italian non-Jews as the exception. Not one of the 8 evaluated Jewish populations were closer to Levant populations. In other words, saying they are not connected to Northeast Africa. Any comments? Any thoughts?
Yep, that goes back to the point that Dr. Elhake, he made this point during the interview, and that is, and you actually brought this out too as well, Pastor Kelly, and that is, family, it's a really simple game when it comes to DNA. DNA is just comparing one group or one person to another group or person. And if you want to hide your relationship to a certain group or a certain person, the easiest thing to do is not to compare your DNA to that certain group or certain people. And so all they're doing with these DNA tests, family, is in order to hide that connection to the group that's over in the Caucasus Mountains or in the Khazars, that Khazar area, all they're doing, family, is not testing against that group. Like when they have the big pool of groups that they're comparing your DNA to, or their DNA to, they'll compare it to all these different groups. They'll compare it to England, they'll compare it to France, they'll compare it to some of the other places, but they will not compare it to those folks from the Caucasus. Because the minute they do that, that's when you start to show the close affinities, and that's what Dr. Aaron Elhike is showing in his research.
Absolutely, you nailed it. You nailed it. Any things you want to add, Sister Carol?
No, but now you have just hit that on the nail. Scattering around DNA to hide who you are. That's basically what all this is about. They keep changing it. Whenever you do your DNA, you have to learn a new codes, a new haplogroups, and what they changed it to, because they do not want you to know who they are, and more importantly, who you are. So what's the best way to do it? Change the codes, move it around, and hide it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Go ahead, Kaz.
Oh no, I'm gonna say that, Sister Carol. That's an excellent point. That is an excellent point, family. I hope you heard what Sister Carol just said. That one of the ways that they hide your identity is to change the haplogroup.
Mm-hmm.
Like they'll just change it. Like over time, at one point you used to be E1B1A, and then they changed it to E3A.
Yep.
Right.
And they changed it to something else, to some M
L3,
something.
it's
it's coming up with all kinds of stuff now.
Yeah, mine is L3B.
Yep. And also it's funny because we over here in the States, when you look at the DNA, that the Y haplogroup DNA groups of the males here in the States, there is a portion of, we do find like a portion of European DNA in our DNA pool, and of course that's because of slavery, of course because of like the rape and stuff that occurred. And the thing about a crime of rape is that there is a DNA signature that's left by the perpetrator. So the perpetrator can't get away with denying who he is. You know what I mean? So if he came over, the person raped, and there was a child that was the byproduct of that unfortunate altercation, then that child would be a living testimony of who the daddy was. He would have the blood. He would literally have the blood of the father coursing through his veins. So just as, and with that being said, just as we so-called African Americans, we literally have the blood of those who took us away captive, that raped our women and children, in our coursing through our veins. And when we look at those groups, we can say, oh, wait a minute, this group is the same group that was in that study that Pastor Keller just showed up earlier, right? Is that R1B1A? I've heard that before. That's the DNA that comes from the Caucasus. And then to Sister Carol's point, what they do is that they'll say, oh, wait a minute. Well, you know what? We're not R1B1A anymore. We're R2. Now we're B2B, right? They'll change it to something totally different so that you won't be able to make that connection back to their history.
And just to address this here that I have on the screen, Louis Fambro, that's why I don't know why people even do DNA tests. Like they're going to tell you the truth, shaking my head. I'll say this, that's partially true to a point, but this is where you have to really go and understand how to approach it. We have the information. Number one, there's nothing wrong with doing your DNA test. Guess what? The government used DNA testing for paternity tests. You know what I mean? Maury done made so much money off of it. The key is understanding these changes. That's the key. Many groups are changing these the label or the numbers or the name of the haplotypes or haplogroups. Now, how this began to come into play really is because of a particular community, and that's the very community that was liberated supposedly in 1948. They began to use this DNA from a perspective to deal with intellects and also try to further create another way of trying to prove or create a connection to the area. Well, why is it important? Why is it important for us to know these things? See, they didn't anticipate when they start creating all these different groups, or should I say testing to supposedly prove who's who. The group of people that threw a monkey wrench in all of this was the limber, because what they did was whatever was the least popular Y, right, haplogroup among them, they said, hey, this is the Levitical priests. This is the Levites. And when the limber stood up and said, hey, wait a minute, we're the people of the book. And when they tested them, they didn't expect to find what they found. So I'm saying this here. You guys could say, you know, you're entitled to your thoughts and your opinions. But when people say, and I've got challenged, Sister Carol witnessed that firsthand years ago, cousin Benea, people said to me from the church, you said that you Israel, prove it with your DNA. Guess what? Not one, not two, not three, not four, not even five. But guess what? Multiple DNA testing began to, each one of them shared that I was connected to Northeast Africa. Literally, for example, the first one was African DNA, DNA tribes, which got purchased and then shut down. They gave me a 28-page report telling me that I am an Israelite. But then I went further with that, took results and began to take it to other places as far as the raw data and everything, and they continuously be confirmed. 23andMe says that I'm Igbo according to 23andMe. Well, the Igbo was confirmed to be descendants of Israel. Matter of fact, that same group that you hear me play that clip of the rabbi asking the question, do you want to remain ancient Israelites or become Jews? They were confirmed to be Israelites, ancient Israelites, right? And to Chris Hollow, yes, the limber, they are actually South Africa. They're is it Zimbabwe or Mozambique? I can't remember. I think it's Mozambique, but they're in South Africa. They migrated from Northeast Africa to South Africa. All right. So the key is the issue is we are exposing the truth. We're exposing the lies and bringing forth the truth, because now it's forcing conversations. Because again, they was pushing for us to improve with DNA, but more and more when the DNA began to say that we're connected to Northeast Africa, then guess what? Everything changed. All right. Everything changed. Things changed. Now we start hearing stuff like, let me play this right here real quick. You guys know what I'm going to play, but this is where we start learning more and more information about Israel. We start hearing this here.
Today, it is prohibited, and you can Google this, to do a DNA test in Israel. Totally forbidden. Wrong. It's illegal. It's a crime. You'll be jailed if you do a DNA test in Israel. Why? Because they know the truth will come out. You come from Poland, you come from Ukraine, you came from Europe, you came from everywhere else. And they were the original Middle Eastern Jews who lived together with the Muslims and the Christians for centuries. For centuries. So what happened to a lot of the Jews?
So now we're having those questions because why? The more we began to do our DNA, guess what? The younger community within the Jewish community, as we know, that they began to do theirs. And they were very surprised at the results, not pointing to Northeast Africa, but pointing to Germany, Europe, Russia, Ukraine, that area, to the point that they had to remove Khazaria. They still make reference to the territory, but they had to remove Khazaria out of it. Cuz, did you want to share anything?
Yeah, I was going to kind of land back on what Brother Lewis was talking about, and that is, because we talked about this too, Pastor Kelly, and actually even Dr. Aaron Elhike mentioned this too, and that is, there is for years they've been using DNA to throw us off the trail, because they've been manipulating groups that were used in the test and that sort of thing. So of course people will go out and run and get these DNA tests, and then of course for us, if you've taken a 23andMe or Ancestry.com, and they'll do like this thing called like an autosomal DNA, and they'll say, oh look, you're 50% Nigeria, 40% Cameroon, or Congo or something like that. And what we didn't realize, family, was that like that's not the test that we needed to take. Like that test won't show us who we are and where we came from. And the reason being is because there was a people that is scattered over Africa. And whenever you have a people that's scattered over Africa, an autosomal test isn't going to help you out. The test that you'll want to take is a test that'll give you the genetic distance value between your DNA and another tribe or a group, not a person, but a tribe or a group. And basically what a genetic distance value test will tell you, it'll tell you if it tells you like how close you are to a person. Like it'll tell you if that's your father or if that's your fourth or fifth cousin, fourth or fifth cousin. So when we take to Pastor Kelly's point, when we take our genetic distance value test, what it does is that it shows us that for some of us that the Limba are our closest relatives. Like out of all the tribes that are in Africa, the hundreds of probably thousands of tribes in Africa, the Limba are the ones that we're closest to. And that should shock people because the first thing that should come up in people's mind was like, wait a minute, but I thought we were taken from the west coast of Africa. I thought we came from the west coast of Africa. They rescued us from swinging on trees. I mean, at least that's what they taught us in schools. But then we run this test. We show that we're the closest to the Limba. And then like Pastor Kelly was saying, when you ask the Limba where they came from, they'll tell you that they came from Northeast Africa. And they'll tell you that they came during the late Middle Ages. The late Middle Ages is when they came from Yemen over to Northeast Africa, and then down into South Africa. So the question that people start asking is, man, why is my DNA matching a tribe that just got into Africa? Literally, like just got into Africa. That tells us that we came from someplace else, right?
And also to add to what you just pointed out, Benea, is the key is we could take those raw results and take it to another, take it to like Jed Match and also to My True Ancestry and get more of, like you just laid out, like even though 23andMe highlighted the Igbo, but Jed Match and My True Ancestry highlighted the Limba. And on the My True Ancestry, it said that 5 generations removed? That's close, family.
That's close.
So if I'm 5 generations removed, then that means that my father is basically like 3 generations. So my grandfather would basically be, on those slave ships coming from over there. So, my great grandfather rather. So I'm saying all of this to say, family, to each his own. We're not knocking you if you choose not to, but don't knock those that are or have gone this route, and for me, the key behind all of this is causing more problems. Now it's like the Limba, when they showed up, all of a sudden they tested them, and the average Ashkenazi person, their DNA coming up 1-2%, but their DNA initially came up 20%. Then it went from 20% when they start adjusting the test, went from 20% to 48%. They adjusted the test again, test them again. Then it went from 48% to 74%, 74, 75%. Test them again, results came back, but they didn't want to share with them. Why? Because every time they try to adjust the numbers to try to bring those numbers down and increase that much more. So I want to just say this from a perspective of, this is why what we're doing here, we're making sure that they understand that we're watching too. We're not just going to sit back and let them say and put information out without actually challenging that information. See, that's why the Dr. Brown, when he made that video and he was talking all over the place, see, what he didn't expect is that we're going to vet that information. We're in a day and time that we cannot sit back and continue to let people put their information out there and try to tell us who we are, and we don't respond to it. Correct. We have to start responding to it. All right, Sister Carol, and then cuz you guys could jump in.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm just reading the comments, and chat. I think her name was Nurse Shay. She made a comment about that she doesn't trust DNA. She thinks one day she's going to run into herself. Somebody's going to clone her, I guess, from her DNA. Well, it would have done that a long time ago, because whenever you go and have your blood work done, that's your DNA being sampled. You get pap smear that's sampled. You get any type of fluids on your body, that's DNA coming from your body being used for a test. And Genesis itself means genetics, means DNA. So nothing wrong with you testing your DNA. And I was going to say to you also, when they mentioned about the different genetic processes to identify your tribe, African Ancestry is the only DNA genetic company that has every last one of genetic groups matchings of every African country. 23andMe does not, and what's the other Ancestry?
Ancestry.com.
Yeah, they do not. Only African Ancestry has all of the haplogroups that are in the continent of Africa. So much so when Emmett, football player for the Cowboys, Emmett
Smith.
Emmett Smith did his DNA testing with African Ancestry. A man in, where was he living? In Senegal, I think. Yeah, Senegal. They tested and went and swabbed everybody. He swabbed him. They matched identical. That was his cousin. He flew from Dallas and went to Senegal to meet this man, and they looked exactly alike. Just from DNA testing. Perfect match. Popped up on the screen radar. 2 matches. That's why it's important to know. Because as you said, Kelly, the more that we test, the more it discredits who they are. They can no longer prove who they are. They have to accept what they are, which is Europeans. And it's matching us to where we are for where we went to in the regions of those areas of those countries in Africa. That's why it's important.
Yeah, the thing I'll add about African DNA as well, and that is like it seems like, you know, these different companies will give you different tests, just like, you know, My True Ancestry will give you a test where they actually test your DNA against ancient DNA. Like they'll test your DNA against DNA from like archaeological sites.
Yes.
And then you have 23andMe and Ancestry.com, and they'll test your DNA against modern groups, you know, people walking around today, and that they've kind of lumped into groups, and then they'll test your DNA autosomally to see how you're related. African Ancestry DNA, what their DNA is a little bit different. They'll test your DNA as depending on which one you do. Like if you do like the Y DNA test, they'll test your DNA against. And I got this because I actually took a DNA test from them as well, but they'll compare your DNA to an individual. At least that's what my results were. My results
through your father,
yes,
Y, and through your mother for the women. You go through all your women up to the first woman that was on Earth. They go all the way back that direction. Yes.
Right. So that's one thing to note, is that they'll test it against an individual, and then the other thing to note is that they're doing what I call a shallow test, in that they're not going back like super far in history, like down like your grandfather, your great grandfather, your great great times 10. Like they don't go back like really far. They test like shallow. So it's just that I said all that just to say you're going to get different results from different companies, and so you just have to be mindful of that, of what they're testing. Because again, what I tell people is that, like, you're a scattered people. I mean, the Bible tells us that we are descendants of a people that have been scattered all over the earth, and that includes Africa. So we've been scattered all over Africa as well. So if you reach into a jar of jelly beans and you throw it against across Africa, your great granddaddy might be one of those jelly beans that landed over in the Congo, or your great granddaddy might be one of those jelly beans that landed over in Senegal, right? And if you take an African DNA test, that jelly bean that landed over in Senegal is going to come up in your report.
Right.
But if you do a genetic distance value test where they're testing your DNA against a group or a tribe, you're going to get a different results. It's going to come back Limbo, or it's going to come back Congo, or something like that. So just like I said, just keep that in mind, family, in case you're taking some of these tests and you're getting different results. Just don't freak out. It's just a byproduct of the tests. And at the end of the day, we're all family, because there's multiple tribes of Israel all over Africa,
Right.
West Africa, South Africa, East Africa. So if you're matching, Igbo, great, that's Israel, right? If you're matching South Africa, great, that's Israel, depending on which tribe and stuff like that. So we're all over the map, family.
Correct.
And I want to give a special shout outs here real quick. Here, hold on 1 second, Sis Gary. Let me give a shout out real quick. Brother Michael, thank you for the contributions. Really appreciate the love and support, especially over the past couple of years. You've really been very supportive of the channel, as well as brother Eric Tinsley. Really appreciate you as well, my brother. Also, Sister Mona, want to give you another shout out again. And Brother Douglas, want to give you a shout out as well. Appreciate you guys, and thank you for the love and support. We really appreciate you guys, because again, all what you guys contribute, we literally invested. The videos that you see us doing, like Benea, I think he got Steven Spielberg asking for advice on how to present information, because he's just that thorough, and this stuff is not easy. When you see those little clips and things that we're doing, graphics and all that, we're taking a lot of time out, and we're purchasing applications, software, and so forth to be able to present this information to you in a way that makes it easier for you to understand. We didn't want to be like, many other groups, even just in the church, just say information. We want to at least give you the visuals, walk you through, so that way it makes it easier for you to understand and articulate it. So we really thank you guys for the love and support. Thank you guys for even the support of me re-releasing The Road to Savannah. I'm working on part 3. My goal is to have it finished within the next couple of weeks, and we're going to take it a step further. So with that being said, Sister Carol and Benea, let's if you guys don't mind, let's transition to another part of the discussion of who are we, because we know we have some brothers and sisters that are watching right now that are new and may not be able to articulate this. And I think you and I, because we talked about this a little while back, because we give so much information. We've been in this for a while, and sometimes we'll forget that there's still a newer group of people coming in, and we may not revisit certain teachings because of where we are and some of the core people that's been following us. So, Benea, I know that, man, you are like thorough with explaining the Spanish Inquisition. Sometimes I'm trying to I ask myself the question, like, were you actually on one of those ships? Were you and Uncle O had a discussion or something like that? Because some of the information you present, it's like, man, do you have like a hot tub time machine or something? To go back? But I'm saying all that to say that, just to kind of give some information to the people, about who they are. Now, I put a little article up here just to kind of help segue into some of the information that you want to share. I do have some information about Israelites being in London, like Amsterdam, and them really breaking down from a perspective of the poets of that time, like the Shakespeare's. They all knew, and they were writing and making it clear that the ancient Israelites were dark melanated people, swarthy people. Same thing about the Egyptians and all. It wasn't until like the 16th, 17th century where it began to shift, and you start seeing the what I want to call it, the white extremist approach to history when it comes to the ancient history. But what you see on the screen, it says here, he's deaf and dumb. It comes from an African town, and it says Hartford, Connecticut, September 19th. a young African Negro has been in this city for the last few days who claimed to be a Hebrew. Now, this article is dated to like what I don't have it up here. I think I thought I did. Yeah, September 20th, 1897. Right? And he goes on to say that he's a Hebrew. It says he's deaf and dumb and as black as the ace of spade. Now, I want to reiterate this. This is not them insulting the person when they say deaf and dumb. It just means that he was born without hearing. So if someone is born without hearing, they would never really understand or know how to formulate a sentence with their mouth. So that's why you see here deaf, dumb, and then it says, and as black as the ace of spade, making it clear there's no question that we're talking about a dark melanated Negro, look like you and I. He carries a pad of paper with him and answer all questions by writing them in Hebrew and Lashkin Kodesh. Now that's a Yiddish, that's a Israeli pronunciation, but what this is saying holy language, because Lashkin, right? That is supposed to be Lashon. And you'll see that word in Genesis chapter 10, when you see the word language or tongues. Lashkin, that's Germanic pronunciation. Kodesh instead of Quadash, Kodesh is German pronunciation. You can kind of hear the Yiddish behind it. But nevertheless, saying that he is writing, it says writing them in Hebrew and Lashkin Kodesh, right? What excites the most wonder is that he writes Lashkin Kodesh very rapidly. It is the language of the books of Moses. This is a reason why they're referring to the books of Moses, because we're dealing with ancient Hebrew. We're not dealing with Syriac block letters. And is made a special study of, spoken and writes with ease. Only the rabbis and highly educated Hebrews, right? And it goes on to say the Negro was sent to one of the rabbis in Hartford, that's right, Hartford, Connecticut, who is perfectly satisfied that he is what? A Hebrew. But notice his testimony. He says that he came from a large town in Africa where there is a tribe of about 20,000 blacks who speaks Lashkin Kodesh and are quite prosperous. He also says that his father is a rabbi in that town, and that is why his father took the trouble to teach him to write these languages, right? But he goes on to say, he says his people not only write Lashkin Kodesh, but it is their speaking language as well. All right, family, I'm going to stop right there, but I want to make sure you guys understand. Oh, yeah, he closes out here. It says, what surprises him, he writes, is that no Hebrew knows of his countrymen in Africa. In other words, who he's referring to in this portion of this article is us. He's coming around us, and we don't have a clue. At this time, the agenda, that machine of erasing us 3 generations, right? Erasing our history, reprogramming us. By the time he bumps into some of them, he's surprised that none of our brothers and sisters that he come across know who we are and even understand that he even exists. All right, I'll open the floor up to you guys. Now, I thought I had this enlarged on the screen. I'm gonna blame you, Sister Carol, for not keeping me on my game to make sure that people can see this clearly. My apologies, family. Blame Sister Carol. All right. Any thoughts, guys?
Go ahead, Sister Carol, because I think you had a comment as well. So,
Well, we've always known who we are before we came here. This just confirms that our heritage and our language and knowing our land and where we came from came along with us. Now, of course, over time, but that information was not passed down to the next generation. It lost its history. But I mean, the Pews itself explains that. How were we able to write that language? Because we already had it inside of us. We know who we were. We know we're Hebrew Israelites. And this young man who was deaf and dumb, he knew who he was. although he could not orally speak because of his disability, but he knew how to write Hebrew. Who taught him that? He didn't learn that here. He learned it from where he came from. It's embedded in us. I mean, just think about it. I laugh sometimes at the names that we call our children, unbeknowing that we're calling them with last name with the suffix or prefix of Yah in it. Unbeknowingly, we do that. It's something inside of us that makes us do that. Because there's a spiritual, there's a DNA, is a bloodline that we carry that allows us to know, unknowingly know, and to know that. And it was a time for us to recognize who we are, which is why this whole discussion is going on. It's time for us to wake up to who we are. We are Hebrew Israelites. We are descendants of the man Eber, whose name means Hebrew. And all of his children born under him are Hebrews.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to, and shout out to Big Chief Moray, Yahusha with Rebirth. He's one of the most detailed researchers that I've had the opportunity, the blessing to work with. They're coming out with a new movie called Reclaiming the Thrones, and I'm not sure what the titles are going to be, the subtitles that's going to be associated with it, but part of that next leg of the journey that they're going to address in Reclaiming the Thrones, because in the first docuseries, I mean, it's like a 7-hour docuseries, and in that 7 hours, he talks about just what you were talking about, Pastor Kelly, was they talk about all the proofs, that we are who we say we are, and part of that proof package starts with before 1619, like before transatlantic slave trade, right before the transatlantic slave trade kicks off. What was Spain and Portugal doing? Like, that's the simple question. Like, what were they doing just before the transatlantic slave trade that they leave out of your books? And what you'll find is that, family, is like there was an event of biblical proportion that was happening in Spain that involves hundreds of thousands of people, of Black, brown people in Spain and Portugal just before the start of the transatlantic slave trade. And that's where our journey starts, and that's where the education starts, as far as explaining like who we are, where we came from, and to your point, Pastor Kelly. And the way that we do that is we take a look, we use old books, and what I mean by old books is that we look at books where the publication date is from the roughly from 1850 and older, and books that are talking about Spain and Portugal, the Israelites in Spain and Portugal. They consistently describe the Israelites in those areas as Black, brown, swarthy, dark skin, like whatever synonym you can think of as far as being Black. That's what they're talking about. And then if you want to talk about the hair, some of those references even talk about the hair too. So they're not tan Europeans, right? They're not tan white people, right? They're dark, melanated people that look like they come from Africa, when actually they did come from Africa over into Spain. And so that's the history. It's in the Reclaiming the Thrones. It's also in Brother Ron Dalton's book, Hebrews and Negroes, as well. So take your pick, go and take a look at it. It's all in detail, well over 600. I mean, I want to say 600 references. Brother Dante Fortson has he put together an archive. I believe it's called Black History in the Bible. I'm just kind of going off the top of my head. I believe that's what the name of the site is. But they compile, hundreds of these old references. They catalog them, organize them. They're there for you. So at this point, to Pastor Kelly's point, there is no confusion. Like, there should be no question as far as who the Israelites are, who they look like, and if the question is like, am I Israelite? Like, that's part two. Part one is first describing what the Israelites look like Black, brown, melanated people, woolly hair, and that's according to the old references. And then from there, we can follow the transatlantic slave trade over to the States and I'll just say this one last thing, because on this this little section here, and that is the easy button for the transatlantic slave trade to figure out who was in the transatlantic slave trade. The easy button is all you have to do is look at the law that authorized the transatlantic slave trade. That's the easy button that all these universities, all these institutions of learning leave out. And the name of the law family is called the Manuelian Ordinance. The Manuelian Ordinance, and it's written in Portuguese. And it is the law that authorized the taking of African slaves, from the west coast of Africa, from Sao Tome, from the slave coast. And that law family that authorized slavery from Africa was a law for the Jews, or was a law for the Israelites. And that's why that law is not in your books, but it's but it is out there for everyone to see. But they keep it from you, and so that's why you think that you're these other people as opposed to you being an Israelite. I think you're on mute, Pascal.
I was going to add something to what you said, Benaya. Someone's in the chat mentioned something about they weren't taught about Spain and Portugal in school. No, they weren't taught in school about Spain and Portugal. We were taught in Spain and Portugal that the Inquisition was about white people. No, it was about our people who were converted to Christianity, placed on slave ships, and sent to St. Thomas. The people who sit in St. Thomas, Barbados, what's another, St. Martinique, which is by the Dutch, all those were on slave ships that came through the Inquisition that went directly there to those islands. And they speak French, they speak Dutch, and English. How did they learn those languages? Because they were in the lands where they came from. On those ships from those two countries. That was done by a law, as I just said, to do this. So no, that would never be taught in school. We were taught that the Spanish Inquisition was about white people, not about us. That whole Inquisition was about us.
Yeah. And to go ahead, cuz.
Just a couple of sentences, because I was going to say, and people don't realize that even the name that they gave us when we arrived over here, Negro.
Yeah.
People don't realize the word Negro doesn't just mean black. The word Negro was the name of a Spanish and Portuguese Israelite family. Like the family over in Israel, in Spain and Portugal, the family was called Negroes. And we're over here and we're called Negroes. And then the last thing I'll say is on that topic is that a lot of so-called African Americans are walking around today with Spanish, Israelite, and Portuguese names, and they don't even know it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like having a name tag on a jersey, like if you have like a football jersey on, and you know how on those jerseys you got your name on the back of the jersey. Like they got these Israelite jerseys, and they're like, "Well, where's the Israelite at? Well, who's the Israelite? I'm such and such." And it's like, well, hey brother, the name on the back of your jersey is an Israelite name. Like I give the example of Deion Sanders. Like people think of Neon Deion, and the last thing people would think was that he has a Spanish Israelite name, and he does. He has a Spanish Israelite name. So it's just stuff like that, family. Like there's all kinds of things that are around us and on us that prove that we are who we are. It's just that we just don't know it.
Correct.
And you hit it right on the nail, you guys. And that's, again, what for me, what really was an eye opener about the Spanish Inquisition is understanding the playbook of where the Roman Catholic Church got it from.
Yes.
For those that may not be familiar with the Spanish Inquisition, there's the Catholic Church came up with a way, so to speak, a process of conversion, of converting Israelites over to their belief system, which is Roman Catholicism. At that time, There was no so-called separation between Christianity and Catholicism. That took place in the mid to early 16th century, or well, late 15th century to the early 16th century, right? As far as the separation, we start getting into the Reformation movement, the Protestant movement, that internal fighting, that squabble, right? But all of them still enslaved us, right? So when you start really understanding that, so what they did was, when we started dealing with the Portuguese, when we started dealing with Spain, what they did to our people, the playbook, forcing them to eat pork, right? Forcing them not to wear their garments and embrace the garments that the church provided, forcing them to not honor the feast days, the Shabbat, all those different things. And they came up with all kinds of, you're talking about, when you deal with the medieval times, they had all kinds of machines, or not machines, but just like tools that they used to torture. It's gruesome, man. But the key is, I had, when you read the Maccabees, the Maccabean period is before the birth of the Messiah. When you read the Maccabees, and you can see why, especially the church don't want you to read that book, because when you read it, you'll see Antiochus, who has such a love for the Greek culture, that playbook that the Roman Catholic Church used is the very playbook that the Greeks were using on the Israelites during the Maccabean period, forcing them to eat pork, forcing them to forget their feast days, forcing them not to be circumcised, forcing them to take on paganism. So that's the same playbook when you fast forward and you see that bloodline, the Greeks, the Romans, those guys did the same thing, right? Their descendants, generations forward, carried out those same heinous acts. So when we start getting into, as Sister Carol pointed out, with Sao Tome, and Benea could really break this down about the king, how they enslaved black, or should I say dark melanated Negroes, that they refer to as Portuguese Jews, black Portuguese Jews, groups called the Mavumba, those different tribal groups that was referred to as black Jews per se. They began, and family, I'm just using it for the sake of conversation. I see some comments in the chat. I don't go around and say that I'm black, right? We already understand the construct. But for the sake of conversation, for those that may not understand history, I'm using the term, right? So when you understand this, right, the Spanish Inquisition, they knew who they were targeting. They knew, let me put this here, because this I don't like seeing stuff like this. Come on, Mike, take a break, man. All right. I hit the wrong one.
I got him.
I hit Ephraim Israel. That's the wrong one. My apologies, Ephraim. I'll see if I can get you back in. Or if you can, since I got Carol, bring them back in.
I get him back in.
But the Mike person, that's who I was targeting.
I got him.
Yeah, come on, Mike. That's going way out in left field. All right, but Ephraim Israel, Sister Carol, want to try to get you back in. Yeah. My apologies. I was trying to get one person and got the wrong one. All right, but go ahead, cuz I'm not going to take up a lot of time. I'll let you elaborate on that. St. Thomas, for Sao Tome, not the St. Thomas in the in the Caribbeans, but the Sao Tome that's just below the Gold Coast, where it's proof that King Solomon had sent out soldiers, right, getting gold. We got proof of that, got documents, got maps. But go ahead, Benaya, I'll turn it over to you, and then we'll get ready to wrap this up, because I think I hit my 2-hour threshold.
Right.
So I don't, so I know my eyes start looking a certain way.
Yep. No worries. No, it kind of goes back to what I was saying saying earlier, as far as like the Emmanuelian ordinances. Sao Tome is mentioned in there, as well as some other areas, as far as telling people where they can get their slaves from, right? But it was also talking about, in that same ordinance, that the these kings and chiefs that are over in Africa, where the Israelites fled to from Spain and Portugal, that it was authorizing them to go and hunt them down and enslave them, right? All of that was in the same ordinance, the same decree. It authorized, it did two things. It authorized the enslaving of them, and then it authorized the selling of them, from places like Sao Tome, or I forgot the other place that was, the Slave Coast, from those two places. So it's all documented, family. It's not anything that anybody's making up. These are like old books that have been around before any of us were born. It's just that these were the books that, when the shackles were on our people over in the States, that if they were caught reading them, they would either cut off their thumbs, or in some cases they would put them to death. So, and you kind of wonder, like, man, why would these oppressors go through such extremes to keep our people from reading these books? And the reason, family, is because the truth is in those books. Like, the truth of who we are and where we came from is in those books.
Absolutely. And you hit it right on the nail, because in family, that's why we're having this discussion. We got more coming up, and I know we're trying to get as much as we can. And for those that are watching for the first time, and what you have up on your screen, this is just one of many sources that we have. But what's on your screen, let me stretch this out real quick. Right, this is a great book, Brereton. What is it? Travels in Holland. Actually, it's travels. Sir, what is it? Sir Travels in Holland, the United States provinces, England, Scotland, Ireland. Actually, it's not the source I was looking for, but just still, in this source, this is referring to Negroes. Right, as you see here, the men most black, full of hair, insatiably given it to women. This is now dealing with how they were treating the dark melanated Negroes, Israelites of that territory. Per se, black Jews is what the term that is being used today. But this is a great source right here. I showed a lot, Shakespeare and the Jews. And in this source, it has so many different additional sources you can pull out of it. And this really go into giving more clarity on that source I just shared, where it was talking about the stereotypes that we see today. They were using these same stereotypes on our ancestors, as you see here, including the beliefs that Jews were black needed to be qualified. So even then, they was like, hey, you know what? We got to prove this thing. We got to make sure that what people are saying is true. But notice what they say here, and I'll just go to this point. When William Brereton jotted down his impressions of the Jews, so he just answered that question by actually writing down, making a note, as we highlighted in the previous source, in the synagogue of Amsterdam, 1635, he noted that the Jewish men are most black and insatiably given unto women, drawing here on contemporary prejudices linking blackness to licentiousness. So this is, in a nutshell, how we were treated. We were treated like, and in other words, like toys, sex toys, so to speak. But the point that I want to make is they're saying he noted that the Jewish men in Amsterdam are most black. But then someone else, it says, and when the Scottish minister Robert Kirk toured London in January 1690, he also paid a visit to the synagogue. There he observed over 200 Jews worshiping. He noted in his journal that they were all very black men. And it says, and indistinct in their reasoning as gypsies. So this is making it clear that in Amsterdam, this synagogue, there was all the synagogue they went to visit 60 years apart, confirming that they were dark, melanated Negroes looking just like you and I. This mission observes is only true of the Portuguese, which is saying that the Portuguese Jews. Now we get into what Sister Carol brought up, what Brother Bonet brought up. Now it's saying, like, in a nutshell, it's saying the Portuguese Jews, right? Saying that they were dark melanated people, but it's saying that they didn't make it they made it a point not to mix with anyone outside. So this is where it says it's only true of the Portuguese Jews who, marrying always among one another, beget children like themselves. Consequently, the swarthiness is what color, guys?
Black.
You know what I mean? The swarthiness of their
Ashy black.
complexion is entailed upon their whole race, even in the northern regions. All right. So, but it says, but the Jews who are originally of Germany, now this is getting into a whole nother discussion of some of the things that when we start understanding the Kazarians and how they infiltrated, conquered a lot of territories, not contrary to what Dr. Michael Brown pointed out. He'd have us thinking that it was a reverse migration. You know what I mean? Like, no, that didn't happen that way. They were conquering territories, but they didn't conquer Israel. I mean, the Northeast Africa as from a perspective of, I'm not conquered. Let me use the term originated there and migrated away from there to Germany. Now that's their territory. But anyway, but this is one of the sources that is highlighting. But like I said, this source has so much information in it. Even talks about some of the things that cousin Benea highlighted about, the things that London was doing when the naturalization laws and all of that, encouraging our ancestors to embrace becoming citizens of London and some of these different places, Europe and all these different places, so that way it'd be easier for them to embrace slavery and not want to be connected with their heritage. Many of those, they had them as being kind of like the overseers, so to speak, in many cases, helping to what a term I want to use, indoctrinate, so to speak, our people. So they would select Negroes among us to become citizens, but they were still enslaved. This is why you'll see documents of what's his name, Oglethorpe, who founded Georgia, having slaves coming from, and they called them Jews, Brazilian Jews or whatever, coming from Brazil that they bred in Brazil, coming over to Savannah, teaching the Negro Israelites down there certain things of how to handle forest machinery. But anyway, I don't want to go too long-winded with that. But anything else you guys want to share? Starting with you, Sister Carol, then Benea, I'll let you chime in as we get ready to wrap up.
Just get your sources. These sources that you laid out for everyone today. I highly, highly, highly recommend that you take these sources that's been dropped into the chat, those links, the books that have been identified on the screen, and start reading. The more you read, the more you will open yourself up to the information that's been available to us the whole entire time. This information has just been hidden, and we're just now revealing it to ourselves. It's time for us to stop allowing others to teach us, and it's time to teach ourselves. And I still want to emphasize, I say this every time you do a live for me up here, please learn Genesis. Please learn the book of Genesis. If you don't learn any other book in the Bible, learn that book thoroughly. That book is so foundational. Before you start going to all these other references, you must understand that entire book, because that is the foundation of who you are, of your
Absolutely.
DNA.
Absolutely. You hit it right on the nail, Sister Carol.
I'm sorry?
No, I said you're hitting it right on the nail.
It's
Absolutely.
just, I mean, it's just imperative. You cannot learn nothing until you learn that. We have been so educated in church. I'm going to go ahead and say that, me, myself, because we did not learn the book of Genesis. Had we learned that, it would be a whole different situation. But it was for a reason, because it wasn't a time. The time is for now. And now you have to learn it, because none of this isn't making sense to you until you understand that.
Absolutely. And also, family, to Carol's point, Sister Carol's point, the word Genesis, right? The Proto-Indo-European word of Genesis is gene. The word genetic comes from the word gene. Gene means begat. What's interesting, you also have generic that comes from the word gene. Generic is synonymous to Catholic, universal. So when you see that term Roman Catholic, Catholic in itself is still dealing with them begatting seeds and people after them, because universal comes from generic. Generic is still tying into gene. Gene means to beget. So Genesis, Barashayat, in the Israeli Barashit, right? That's the Hebrew name. I said it in both ancient Hebrew and the Israeli language, but it's transliterated over in terms of the name of the book, Genesis, because now we're dealing with genes. That's where you see the word beget. Beget, again, is dealing with the word gene. So to Sister Carol's point, when you're reading the book of Genesis, all those places that in the church told you wasn't important, you know what I mean? They lied. All right. So real quick, what's on the screen, and I'm going to let Benaya jump on here and give us his thoughts here. This is a map, and what I mentioned earlier, that proves King Solomon's travel. Not just him, but his soldiers. I'm not going to go into the details. I'll do this in another time. Actually, I'm working on the video. I want to drop this. This will be in the road to Savannah, because I have some other maps I'm going to share. But you see Ophir. You'll see this is mentioned in Kings, right? Ophir. But notice what you see here. Hebraeus. So this is letting you know, coming from Northeast Africa, this is the route. Sao Tome is south of the Gold Coast. This is where ships were port at. And actually, this is many of the so-called, I'm just using the label, Black Portuguese, Jews per se, were also sent to this island. Many of them were sent to this island. But this is also transliterated to St. Thomas. But this is to the south of the Gold Coast. And just so happened, when you read, Solomon was sending soldiers along with Hiram's soldiers to go out and get what? Oil and other, not oil, but gold and other precious minerals and things for the temple. So that's what this map here, for those that having questions, this is one of the many maps that's hard to get to, you know, but this is some of the sources that we have proving that, yes, Israelites traveled from Northeast Africa to this territory here. And contrary to how many want to interpret Josephus, saying that, oh, Josephus says, hey, some of the Israelites fled into Africa. No, they were always in Africa. Israel has always been part of Africa. They just migrated. Some migrated deeper into Africa, while others were already there before the 7 AD Roman invasion. All right. But with that being said, Benay, I'm gonna open up the floor for you. Any final words that you wanted bring about as we get ready to wrap up?
Yeah, I'll just say that it's, you know, in these last days, man, you can see how the Most High is playing like 4D chess with everybody, because it's just over the last like 3 or 4 years, it seems like there have been like landmark DNA revelations, archaeology revelations that have come out that have really settled things. But it's just that we are, I guess, we as a people, I guess, the world are just realizing what this information means. Like, for instance, like the whole, because I saw a comment in the chat where someone mentioned that it's like the Brits are dead, right? And basically alluding that the whites and the Caucasians in Britain are descendants of the Israelites. Well, based off of DNA, like the whole DNA where they map the genome of like the Neanderthal and the human modern the modern man, right? and they were able to, like, the landmark DNA research that was done. I forgot the name of the institution that's up in Germany, but it's actually one in Germany, I believe, that did this research. But what they did was that they were able to, because they mapped the full DNA genome of the Neanderthal, mapped the full DNA genome of modern man. They were able to see what genes came from the Neanderthal over to modern man. And like, this stuff, family, is not disputed, is not in question. The guy that did the research won a Nobel Prize for it. His research is used as a foundation for ongoing research. And one of the revelations that he came up with was that this gene called BNC2. And so the BNC2 gene came from the Neanderthals over to modern man, and that gene was responsible for pale skin. And so it's in like 70% of Europeans, and is responsible for the pale skin. And so when people say things like, well, hey, the Israelites they weren't a black people or melanated people, they were a people of pale skin. Well, basically what they're saying is that, hey, the Israelites had this BNC2 gene from the Neanderthals. Like, just to put it bluntly, family, that's at a genetic level, that's what they're saying. They're saying that the Israelites were they have the Neanderthal gene, is what they're saying. And that's why I say, family, is that, and of course, when you say it out loud, most people will say, well, no, that's ridiculous. The Israelites, the ancient Israelites didn't have that gene incorporated into them. But again, like I said, that's just one of the revelations that's out there that, it's not up for debate. Guy won a Nobel Prize for it. It's established as fact. And like, that's, to me, like, that's just one of those immutable facts that proves that the Israelites were not a pale skinned people that had the BNC2 gene. When people say they were pale skinned, I hear BNC2 in my mind. And people, they won't argue with that for the most part. So, most High willing, I think I should have a video coming out called the Neanderthal Messiah, or it may change as far as the name, but we're going to address that topic, most high willing, and you will see that the whole notion of the Israelites being a pale skin BNC2 skin mutation people is utterly ridiculous. So, but peace and blessings, fam. Yeah, thanks, cuz, for inviting me on. Thanks, Sister Carol, for jumping on, and my eyes are drooping too.
and cuz, let everyone know about your channel.
Benaiah Israel over in YouTube, and also if you have a Rumble account over in Rumble, is Hidden Hebrews on Rumble, and Benaiah Israel on YouTube. Peace and blessings, fam.
Hallelujah. Now, this is the last live we're gonna do at the end of this year. This is the last live of the year, so we're gonna have to give you guys opportunity to close us out with some garbage can awards. If I need to bring out the chair, let me know. And if I need to bring out the infamous 3-piece, let me know. So I'll start with you, Sister Carol, who you want to throw inside the garbage can. And are they worthy of getting the actual chair right along with it?
This individual who I am nominating, who's been nominated to the trash can, is also nominated to the chair, also nominated to the 3-piece, is my good friend and good buddy, who always so eloquently comes on to tell us that they flipped over the scriptures and found a name and decided that's the name they wanted to be. My boy, Dr. Brown, or Dr. Braun. Put him in all.
Family. So we give him the garbage can. Actually, before we give him the garbage can, he definitely falls into the category of the Stranger Danger Award that we just created about a month ago. So we're gonna give him the Stranger Danger.
Stranger danger! Stranger danger! Stranger danger! Stranger danger!
Then let's go ahead and give him the garbage can. Where's the garbage can? I had it right here. You got to get the garbage can. And of course, we got to give a 3-piece. Got to give the 3-piece and his order to go. Here it is. All right, Benea, you got the floor. Any recommendations or what would they say, runner-ups?
Well, I would put in there the organizations that always want to come against our community, and the one that's like at the forefront, throughout the years for me is the ADL. They just can't seem to stay out of Black folks' business.
Yeah. Oh man, did I take that animation down? Let me see if not animation, that video clip down, because you made me think about the one clip. Oh, I think I took it down trying to clear up space. Let me see if it's here. Yep, I took it down. But you know what? We'll still give them the garbage can award. Where's the garbage can? All right. And matter of fact, we'll do a special dance for them, right? We'll do a special dance like how one of the old video clips. This is a special dance for them. And in the old holiness churches, Kojic, they'll say, hey, we dancing on the devil's head. But this is also a special dance for who you nominated here.
Life is like a hurricane here in Duckburg. Race cars, lasers, aeroplanes. It's a duck blur.
Wow.
Guys side, because I'm having problems with StreamYard. It kept going in and out. Did it play good on you guys side?
Yeah, I could hear it and see it. But
okay, it's just my side then. All right, but really appreciate you, fam. And again, this has been a great year in terms of more and more information that the Most High is opening up to us. And Benaya, myself, and some of our other brothers and sisters that are putting in this work, we are constantly watching and just anticipating information that is coming down to kind of present it to you guys, and also things that may be troubling, like as Benaya pointed out, with the ADL and other groups that have made assertive efforts to get into our business and also twist news, as Benaya exposed in a video about the ADL with trying to put certain things on our community that had nothing to do with our community. But really appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for the love and support. And I just want to encourage you guys with the words of Moses, or the Most High that he gave to Moses in Exodus chapter 14, verse 13 to 14. He told them, he said, look, fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of Yahweh. These Egyptians that you see here today, they will never have power over you again. The Most High will fight for you. But here's the kicker, family. He told them that they had to hold their peace. In other words, the Hebrew word there in the ancient is shalom. The Israeli is shalom. Some of you guys would say salam. Whatever words you use, but the key is that's not the word that's in this text. The word that you'll see there is kharash, which means be quiet. Sometimes we have to learn how to move in silence. Sometimes we have to learn how to move in calculated silence, right? Strategic silence. But the Most High will fight for you. But the key is we have to learn how to what? Be quiet, not get in the way. With that being said, can't go back, can't stay here, keep moving forward. Shalom.
Listen, Genesis chapter 11 verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this back, Genesis 14 verse 13, Abraham steps on the scene. Being a descendant of Shem, which is a fact, means Abraham too was black. Abraham, born in the city of a black man, called Nimrod, grandson of Ham. Ham had 4 sons. One was named Canaan. Here, let me do some explaining. Abraham, Isaac was the... Jacob had 12 sons, for real, and these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10, these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10.